Hi everybody, it's the Gin and Tonic show. It is Sunday, it is the 23rd of October, and it is 1800 p.m. and it's UTC. This is the last time it's going to be on this time because in some, I don't know how many countries actually on this planet, there will be a time change where suddenly people are going to go into winter time. I don't know why they do this. I think we should do away with it. I think it has outlived its usefulness, and we realize it doesn't really do anything anyway. So I think we should keep summertime or winter time, whatever. It doesn't really matter as long as we keep one. So there you go. I demand to be moderator. Hello, Islam ungelungen, the richtig echtig Wahrheit. I demand to be moderator. I don't know how to get you into moderator status. Add, remove moderators. There you go. Add moderator, channel name. No, I cannot type all that into the channel name. That's much too much. Islam. Oh, come on. This is moderators. Islam. No, Islam. I need to take out again. I don't know how to copy paste. I cannot copy your name. How can I get your name? Can I get it from here? No, I can't. I don't know. I have to think of something later. Okay, so it's a Gin and Tonic show. We talk about Islam and we talk about various aspects of Islam. We talk about Islam from the viewpoint of non-believers. In other words, this is not a propaganda channel, and it is also not a propaganda channel of the far right or right wing or any like that. So we try not to bash Muslims. We try to criticize the bad ideas in Islam. And the number one thing I always say is most Muslims are better than their God. So that I'm not criticizing Muslims, because a lot of times the indoctrination is so subtle and is so deep that I don't actually blame Muslims for what they do, because a lot of times it's really not their fault. So I'm very clear about this, that I will criticize the ideas, but not the Muslims themselves. I will criticize the claims Muslims make, and I will go and criticize people if they start lying, if they start deceiving, if they, if they're really obnoxious and condescending, and the people that say, why don't you go and research and read the Qur'an or something, that makes me so mad. So I don't like people like that. So now I can copy paste this. So I just needed a little bit of text here, then I can do that. So if I go now, add more moderators, put the channel name in here, please. This is like half a book. Add moderator. He doesn't want to. It's probably too long or something. He doesn't do it. Do I need to? Do you have a space behind your name, maybe? No. Okay, he doesn't do it. Yeah, I'm a useless dictator, and that's it. Do you think Jeremy can do that? Actually, yeah, he hasn't been around for a while. I don't know. Maybe he's busy in the real world. And I always think, I wonder what happens if you die. Like if I were to die, nobody would know. I mean, they would come here, they would say, well, where's the Gin and Tonic show? What happened? But nobody would really know that I died. So, it's quite a funny thing, this internet group thing, if you are in a group somewhere, because you're so remote and you're so removed from one another that you don't really know when, who is happening, what to whom, and so on. Okay, we have some definitions at the beginning, and then we have the video of the week and the misconception of the week, some news topics, hadith of the week. And in case it does not, there you go, then I demand moderator status. Maybe I can do it with this name, because the other one, really, I tried, it doesn't accept it. So this should be report, put user in time. I'm not going to set user as moderator. There you go. This time it worked. But hang on, if I can do this with this, why shouldn't I bloody well be able to do it with this one? No, he will not accept it. He doesn't like this long name with the vague Hill. I can do it. Can I now silence GPZ? You bastard. No, you cannot. Okay, so
As you started
because I
the
think it's
chat,
always important to know what
Bam.
and to define what it is that you're talking about. Sorry, GPZ, did you try and say something?
Yes, as you started the chat, perhaps if you were to click on the flag, which is on the right side of the user's name, it might give you an option.
Well, that's what I did.
All right.
It does this in the short names, but the long names, it doesn't seem to want to do that.
It tells me I can report Ike.
Because I don't get this.
Yeah.
Because if I go to this vector hello, it gives me the options, do this, do this, do this. And if I click on the Islam and so on, then it doesn't do that. Then it just gives me normal whatever options. So there's something that it doesn't like with the name.
Oh, I think it's just Google not liking you, because I know other people can do it.
Okay, then it's just me. Or maybe they don't like...
well, maybe this channel doesn't exist yet. I mean, it was closed down. It came back by a fluke.
No.
It was banned. The channel was banned.
No.
Yeah, it was. When you were banned, and Stop Spamming was banned, this channel ended up getting banned.
Yeah, but not Verily was only restricted to short-length videos and was not able to stream live anymore.
Well, I had a message it was banned when I tried to visit after you got kicked out yourself.
No, Jinn&Tonic show was banned. Stop Spamming was banned. What was it? Where religion where? That was banned. So I lost 3 channels. Yes.
And this was one of them.
But Victor Hiller was never banned. No. Okay, doesn't matter. We're talking about Islam, and we're talking from the viewpoint of a non-believer. And the thing is that non-believers have come up with this word atheist. Now, an atheist must be the opposite of a theist. So using the word atheist, you first need to define what a theist is to know what a non-theist is. And that is difficult because a theist can be a lot of different things. So normally it is somebody who believes in his own one favorite God. I don't think you would call Hindus theists, although some people might. I tend to take the more stricter version where it's a single God, and there it's a theistic belief refers to the belief that there is one creator God. And if I am not that, that means I do not believe what the theist believes, which is that there is this one creator God, which they believe has some sort of evidence that it exists. So in other words, all I am is a human being without the additional belief that babies, just because I read babies, because gods don't exist. I should concentrate and focus what I'm doing, but I've done this so many times, I think I'm on autopilot. So when it gets absurd, because I don't like the word atheist because I think it's stupid, undefined. Nobody really knows what it is. A lot of people come around and say, well, the atheist makes absolutist claims, which is not the case. Then they mistake the atheist as a hard atheist and a soft atheist, which doesn't make sense. As soon as you do not believe there is a God, you're an atheist, and that is it. You cannot be agnostic or gnostic or something like that, because at the end of the day, nobody has knowledge. If you're looking at it from an epistemological standpoint, you cannot say, I have knowledge, absolute knowledge, that a God exists or that a knowledge does not exist. And therefore, the word agnostic can be chucked out, done away, ignored, not be used anymore. Now, anybody who does not believe that God exists is an atheist. Finished. End of story. Klar. Now, it gets absurd when people then say, well, this absence of a belief is something that is an activity, or the absence of a belief is a belief. Then it gets stupid, all right? And yet people still throw around this atheism, which it really does not exist. I don't know, that's an oxymoron somehow. You can't. The absence of belief is not an activity. It doesn't have a goal. It doesn't follow anything. It doesn't strive to do anything, and so on and so forth. So it's not an ism. And yet, just to enable the dialogue, I agree to call myself an atheist, subscribing, performing 24/7 atheism. That's how tolerant and how flexible I am. So I'm not a bigot at all. You could call me, hey you atheist subscribing to atheism, and I will say, yes. So that's the way that it is. And what I always say is that I do not have a worldview either, because I don't take anything and everything that I do and see it through a single pair of glasses. I don't run everything through a single set of filters, or a single filter, I should say. Like a Muslim, he will say, okay, I am going to go and buy strawberries later, inshallah, if my God allows it. And then once I've eaten them, I will have to go to the loo and I will have to do this. Which foot first? Left foot first. If not, I'm a deep shit. Now, I'm not that authoritarian towards my feet. I let any foot that wants to go first take the lead.
What would you call a Satanist?
What would I call a Satanist?
Because they don't believe in gods, but they do believe in angels, which are supernatural beings.
That's an interesting question. I would also call them a theist to a certain degree, because they believe in a supernatural being which can interfere with our everyday lives. I think that's what I would call a Satanist.
Oh, and the Hindus are pantheists.
And Hindus, well, the Hindus, it's a bit of a confused group, because they can be theists in as much as they have a lot of gods they can choose from, but then at the end of the day, they will go and identify with that one god. So then they are theists at the end of the day. But you can also say that, okay, we have the creator, we have the sustainer, and we have the killer, and we have, all these different entities that have different functions in this universe. And therefore, I think that they can be theists. They can be whatever. But anyway,
Giants have dragons, don't they? But they call them gods, but they don't really seem to be gods. They seem to be more like animals, like they got the monkey god, and it's a monkey.
Yeah, but this has to do now with the reincarnation. This has to do with their belief that this shell that you have, this human shell that you.
I thought it came before Buddhism, all the sort of like dragons and monkey gods and serpent gods.
Yeah, but you're only using this shell for a limited time, and then you die, and then you come back as one of the animals. This is why you have this holy cow thing.
No, these were original. They came before humans.
Who came before humans?
The things like the monkey gods and the dragons.
Yeah, but this is due to reincarnation. That we then are manifestations of this monkey god.
No. They came before. Buddhism came later. These are like pre-Buddhist gods, and Buddhism, just like Christianity, incorporated other mythologies into its traditions.
Okay, that's possible.
Well,
Buddhism is quite flexible that way.
Monkey god is not really a god. Monkey god Hanuman, he is son of wind god, and monkey god is devoted to Lord Rama.
That's what I'm saying. He's not really a god, but he's called a god.
Well, no, it's not any kind. He's a devotee of Ram. He is the son of wind god.
So we got a god that's not a god. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, he's a devotee. He's a devotee. He was in the army of Ram when they went to liberate his wife in Sri Lanka.
But what function does he have?
Who, Hanuman?
Yeah, because they all have a function.
Yeah, well, he in daily lives there is no function. I mean, if you're good with that, there's a whole chapter written on Hanuman. It's called Hanuman Chalisa. He's a devotee. He's supposed to dispel if you're afraid. You recite that Hanuman Chalisa, and it dispels your fear, makes you fearless.
Okay.
In the Vedas.
So this is the God that Ike uses, because I don't know if you can see his T-shirt. Let me click on this and make it big for everybody. He wants to go to Speaker's Corner sometime in the next weeks, and this is the jacket he wants to wear. I swear by the beard of the prophet, with the beard, there is no God, which is bound to get him some attention. And I said, well, coming back, you will not have a problem, because you're going to be in an ambulance jet with a couple of knives in your back. So he must be fearless, somehow infused by this God. So this is okay. Well, I hope he lives to tell the story. So this would be quite interesting. Okay, let me just continue then with the atheist idea that we are non-believers who look at Islam. In other words, I do not believe in any of these supernatural things, which makes me objective. Maybe I have a bias, absolutely, I agree to that. And maybe I am not as objective as I could be, because having done this for a couple of years, you do sort of see the things and you see the ideas and you sort of decide which are the good and the bad ideas. And therefore, yes, I am biased. I take the data, I take the information, and then I compare it to what I already know, to my experience. But I still try and remember the good sides. I try not to only bash, and I hope that everybody else does the same thing, that we can be polite, that we can be nice to the people. Because like I said earlier, I don't always blame the people for the beliefs that they have. There are some people who know they are wrong. There are some people who know that they are liars. And I know that some people are deceptive because they want to earn brownie points for their God. Yes, you get those people. And yes, we should call them out. And yes, we should be able to say, listen, you are a liar. That is not hate speech. That is not, like pointing out that the entire ideology is now bad. No, this is them going against the one person who says, I am telling you that this is true and that there are miracles and blah, blah, blah. This is what we're talking about today. And they know perfectly well that they are not. So we can do that. All right, so we are trying to be objective, and we look at Islam. What is Islam? Now, there's different routes that Islam takes compared to other like Abrahamic religions, because Christianity tries to build like the kingdom of heaven in people's hearts. And Islam doesn't want to do that. Islam wants to build the kingdom of heaven here on earth, a worldly kingdom of heaven. So Islam is basically an Arab supremacist socio-political ideology masquerading as a religion. And this is the thing that the apologists are using a lot of times. We love Jesus, we love Jesus. No, you don't. It's not the same Jesus. It's a completely different Jesus. If you go by the Quran, where Maria was the sister of Aaron, that means she was in Moses' times. In other words, 1,000 years before the Moses of the New Testament. So it's a totally different Moses. The name of the mother happens to be the same thing, and there happens to be a similarity between the virgin birth and things, but that's it. Otherwise, there is no similarity between the Jesus in the Quran and the Jesus in the New Testament. Now, if you look at the contents of Islam, you will see that the majority of sentences are addressing non-believers, because the people who wrote the Quran were petrified of non-believers and were petrified that they will gain the upper hand, because they were poop scared that they were not going to get any recognition, because they tried to be the Jews 2.0. They didn't really manage, and the Jews didn't accept them. Nobody really accepted them. And then all they have now is threats, and that is what is left. And we see the threats in the Quran, and we see what the Muslims are making of it. But a lot of them are quite easygoing, relaxed, and there's a lot of them who are waking up, especially with the internet now, making information available on all these different things. And we're going to be talking about some of these apologetics a little bit later. So Islam is a political ideology, number one. Okay, so the number one statement is most Muslims are better than their God. Second statement, Islam is a political ideology. And now the third thing is we need to look at the various claims, the way that Islam is being handled, being lived, is being managed in the 21st century. And that is something where I think the Jinn&Tonic show is uniquely situated and geared for providing information, factual information on Islam in the 21st century. That's what I'm trying to do anyway. So the topic is going to be apologetics today. As video of the week, I have selected something, and as always, I'll put the link in the description box later on. Beyond the Stalemate of Cosmology. It's the most dishonest video on apologetics that I've ever seen. It combines just about everything that is wrong about Muslim apologists. The lies, the ignorance, the lack of education, the deception, the outright stupidity. It's by a channel called EF Dawah, where I don't know if people have seen the refutation that I made, because I don't know if you know the story of converted to Islam, who went into Islam 16 years ago, and then as he went deeper and deeper into Islam, found out that it's bullshit, and then said, no, I'm sorry, I'm quitting. And his channel has changed, and now he's showing why he is quitting Islam and what's convinced him to quit Islam. And now Muslims are scrambling to sort of dampen the effect that this guy is having. And therefore this EF Dawah came up with a refutation video, which I debunked because it was highly dishonest, it was horrible, and I showed that it was. And this is the same guy. And here, and I think his name is Abbas, and there's another guy with a red beard. I mean, I've never paid much attention to him because he's so stupid. And he's called Hamza. And this Hamza and this Abbas are together. Link that video. No, if I go link that video in the chat, then everybody's going to go off and watch YouTube. We know exactly how that works. And this is quite a long video. It's only like 40 minutes or something. And I don't want to sit here alone and chat to myself when everybody else is watching the video. I was actually thinking of doing this, like watching the video and then doing a running commentary on this, because it's quite long, and the video is going to be over an hour long if you comment on what it is that they're saying. But I thought it's worthwhile looking at it because there's so many things wrong. There's on so many levels, and so many things that are so ridiculously stupid. And the one thing is that I took as misconception of the week, and this is the word dichotomy. Muslims don't understand that saying I don't know and them saying, well, it's my God, is not a dichotomy. It's not the only alternative. You cannot say just because you don't know where the universe comes from, you don't know where conscience comes from, you don't know where life, how life originated, and therefore my God is the best explanation. No, it is not. That's a misconception. You need to stop this. And I don't know why Muslims love doing this, and why they are unable to conceptualize and understand that it's an abstract what they are providing. There is nothing based on data, experience, on observation. There is nothing about their God that makes sense. And then they say, well, then if you don't have it, I have an explanation. If you don't know where consciousness came from, well, our God gave it to us, and this is why this is the best explanation, as long as you are saying, I don't know. No, it is not. Okay, let me go through some news, and then let's oh, by the way, I hope that because it's dark in the UK, I'm hoping that what was it, Speakers Corner UK, Rob is going to come by later and talk to us about what he did today. Now, we had a one-on-one, and I'm going to upload this later tonight as well, where we talked about all the different
homosexual 101?
things, the different sort of ideas of things that we want to talk about. Ike, did you want to say something?
Did you have a sexual 101?
Him in the UK and me here. Yeah, absolutely. No, a one-on-one chat. This is not that this was a group chat or something. No, it was just the two of us talking shit.
Tongues were involved.
Nothing sexual. You mean?
Nothing sexual whatsoever. I promise there will be no children.
Just wanted to clarify.
No. I will not cheat on my wife because otherwise I'm going to get stoned, right? Anyway, so I'm hoping that he's going to join us a bit later and tell us about what he did today in Hyde Park in Speaker's Corner. Now, I trust that everybody knows that there's a city called London. It's in the United Kingdom, which is a country, which is an island next to Europe. That they have in this London a park which is called Hyde Park, and one part of it is called Speaker's Corner because historically this has been the place where everybody went and was able to talk about or scream about or rant about whatever gripe they had. If there was anything that they were unhappy about, then they could make their voice heard at Speaker's Corner. If anybody wanted to know what's going on in the city of London or something, then they'd go to Speaker's Corner. And that is now where a lot of people go. And of course, if you go to Speaker's Corner and switch on the camera, and you just point it at the sky or the ground, it doesn't matter. All you hear is one voice, which is like going, it must cover like a kilometer. And it's always screaming, Jesus, Jesus. This is Jay Smith. I mean, as good as he's able to present his arguments when it comes to Islam, he is utterly ridiculous when it comes to Christianity. And he's like a little kid when he's standing on his ladders, and he tells people, come and debate me, my ladders are waiting for you. Because he treks out there and he puts up two ladders and then people can talk there. This is hilarious. Anyway, so this is Speaker's Corner. This is what we're going to be talking about a little bit later on. Now, the one thing I picked up this week, I gave it the title Crazy, because it's the US and titles. And of course, the person who made me aware of it was Professor Sad. Sorry. Now, I've worked in the UK, in the US, and I've noticed that they are crazy for titles. So you will get the executive sub-assistant of the director general, and in other countries you call this secretary. But they will come with these huge titles, and at the end of the day, it's just some department head or something. So I was actually always funny. So, and now he is making fun of this because he says in the US there is now a law that you need to address somebody by their title, and you can choose your title. So he has this. Okay, I don't know how we're going to do this. He has decided that the next time you are going to address Professor Sad, you are to address him as your most excellent and magnificent Lord of the Universe, Emperor of all things, Professor Dr. Sad. This guy is so excellent. I love his sense of humor. I mean, this is really so. Your most excellent and magnificent Lord of the Universe, Emperor of all things, Professor Dr. Why I think this is so funny is that you find all of this in the Quran. Because in the Quran, it's always, I am the God, and you need to address me as your excellency, the magnificent, the Lord, the Emperor, or the whatever. I mean, how many different titles, how many different attributes does this author give itself in the Quran? It's so amazing. Okay, most positive opinion of the God is not saying much. Oh, I think it is. Because it's saying that the God is not very good. And it's saying that the Muslims that follow this God, most of them are of a higher morality than this God. So where this God says, well, you need to kill the people, they will not do so. In other words, the Muslims, the people following this God, are better than the God itself. And I think that is very important, because if you go and you look at the ideas in Islam, in the Quran, especially if you go into the Hadith and if you go into the Sirah, or in other words, the Sunnah, the ideas in there are horrific. And that is why I need to point out that most Muslims are better than their God, because they don't adhere to them. So they are quite normal people and who live normal lives. Not all of them go and pray 5 times and fast and skip lunch every single day during Ramadan. They don't do that because they realize that it's stupid.
Spam?
Yeah.
May I ask you a question, or just briefly, very briefly, discuss where you say are better than their God? Can I just maybe just ask a couple of questions and get your thoughts on it?
Sure.
You say Muslims are better than their gods. First of all, is it perhaps a case of the Muslim not knowing the requirements from their God? So it's actually ignorance that makes them better, whereas if they knew what their God wanted, that might be a different case.
Yes, it is a factor.
Okay.
It's a fact that a lot of Muslims don't know what the Quran says. They don't know what the Sunnah says. They are cherry picking. They are being told by the Imam, it says this, and then this they think is the entire content, and they don't go further. Yeah.
So it's a case of they're not actually better than their God. They are ignorant to their God, yeah?
Okay, yes.
Another question.
Sure.
Those that do know what the Quran teaches about some subjects, could it be a case of taqiyya? That is a case of wherever they're living in, say, for instance, the Western world, they wouldn't be able to get away with killing an apostate, so they don't. But they say things with their mouth because of the freedom of speech and not maligning Allah's name. However, their hearts curse the person.
Yeah, I see what you're getting at.
Okay. And another point would be, could it be a case of the Muslim that is quite belligerent and volatile towards an apostate, like myself, but they're too coward to actually stand up for their God and execute me for apostasy? Could that be true as well?
This I don't know.
Okay, so
I've never asked anybody, and it's not a readily available statistic. All I can do is
but it's a possibility it's a possibility that there are many Muslims living in lands where murder is, you know, it's illegal, and they can't commit an act of murder because they value the law of men above the law of their own God, and they're too cowardly and in zeal and in conviction of their Allah to actually carry out the murder for apostasy.
Yeah, but I'm alive.
And so am I.
So, no, there's not. Well, there can't be that many, because if there were more of them, I wouldn't be alive anymore.
But I guess the point I'm making is that I see why you do it. You say Muslims are better than their God, but just through the 3 points I've raised, we've been able to establish that the majority of the cases, that isn't the case. That the
no, it's not the majority.
Well, we don't know, as you say, we can't count the statistics, but we do know that most Muslims do not know what the Islam teaches. So the Muslim isn't better than their God. The true statement should be the Muslim is ignorant to their God.
Now, what I'm trying to say is that there are Muslims who don't know the full details of what the Quran and what the Sunnah says.
Yeah.
They are aware of that you shouldn't drink alcohol for some odd reason. That is very important to them, that women are of a lesser level.
You don't have
and that the... Sorry?
You don't have to be a Muslim to be teetotal, and you don't have to be a Muslim to have a lesser view of women. You can have that in the United States of America, or certain Afro-Caribbean cultures have that.
Yes, I'm just now saying this is what I, in my experience, have found out what Muslims know about Islam. And what they know for a fact is that they should not be friendly with atheists, with non-believers and apostates, that those are evil people. This they know. So this is something where I say it is it's a decision. This is a cognizant decision, a choice that they make, that they will not kill apostates and non-believers.
Okay, whilst I take your point there, I'm of the opinion, I'm not trying to split hairs here, but as an ex-Muslim myself, I would say that most of the Muslims are not aware that you're supposed to kill an ex-Muslim, And those Muslims that are aware that you're supposed to kill an ex-Muslim are too cowardly to carry out the law of their own Allah, and therefore, by implication, are putting the law of men above the law of the God that they claim to worship.
Well, this is a topic I have talked to about with Muslims, and they said, yes, they know about it, but they will not do that.
But still, I mean,
but you're not answering. Yeah, but they are going to sweet talk you as to why they won't carry it out, but you don't know if that's a true statement, because if your Allah says to do this, it's not an option. It's not like well, if you feel like it, or if you can be bothered, or if you got the tools to hand, kill him. It's not. It's a direct command. If a man leaves his religion, kill him. There's no option in that. There's no room for maneuver. There's no room for watering it down or diluting it. It is a simple statement of fact. If a man leaves his religion, kill him.
And yet they don't, which is why I say they're better than their God.
So if somebody leaves Christianity, it is a duty of a Muslim to kill them because they left their religion.
Actually, yes.
But still, Thunder,
Majid
the point is...
was asked this question today.
There are better.
Said the kill people is a hadith. It's not a Quranic verse.
It's also Quran. Ike, yes.
Yeah, but the main point and the reasons may be different, and probably you can call some ignorant, and some even deny the fact of the so-called facts of the Quran. They still are better than they got. They still have this status of they are better than their gods. The reasons in the end doesn't really matter, or do they?
Well, they do matter. If the religion makes a statement of action in a particular situation, and you don't follow it, you are no longer a part of the religion that you claim to be following.
Yeah, of course you can say that to the Muslim, and if you say, and if it's a stupid thing like, but still Islam is the religion of peace. It means peace, and you are not allowed to kill people because it says in the Quran.
That man,
I mean, such small things. These people who are ignorant and who deny some things, other things, this little things they know and they throw it out. So you can call them even liar in this matter. But still, if they are better than the God commands, they are better. Is this not very important?
But looking at it from the Islamic lens, they are not better than their God. From the Islamic lens, they are hypocrites. This is the point.
Yeah, of course. But Stop Spamming isn't Muslim. So when he said that, sure you, but he wasn't. And from his perspective, he can say that without hesitating or something like that, without something mean behind it, etc. He can say, as a non-believer in any kind of God, they are better than their God commands.
But you have to know what their God commands to make the statement whether they're better or not. And if their God commands something and they don't follow out the command, then they're no longer a follower of their God.
Yeah, but like I said, if it comes from an atheist, from somebody who doesn't believe, you can say that as an atheist, they are better than their God.
If I make the claim I work at McDonald's, if I make the claim I work at McDonald's, but I don't go to McDonald's to work, the HR don't know me, the store manager doesn't know me, the staff don't know me, I don't even buy a bloody Happy Meal, I can't claim to be working at McDonald's anymore, and I'll be found out to be a fraud. That's the same thing with Islam. You don't have to be a member of the staff.
Not really.
If you buy a ticket to work out, the guy is a liar.
Yeah, sure, but if you know McDonald's good enough, still don't working there, still you can make the claim. You are better than your company to say it. If you do something the company doesn't allow or command.
I can't claim to be better than McDonald's as an employee if I'm not an employee.
No. The thing is that it is a factor, but not every single one is doing that.
Yeah, can I say something else? That's a really stupid claim to say if you're not in it, you're some kind of not allowing to talk about it. Like you can't talk about pedophiles if you don't fuck yourself, children.
Yeah, but I'm not talking
That's a stupid claim.
Yeah, but no, it's not. I am not saying you have to be a Muslim or an ex-Muslim or what. I'm not claiming the criteria as to who can make the claim. I'm simply making a statement that if a person knows that the rules for killing a Muslim, for the rules for apostasy are kill the person, and you're a Muslim and you do not carry it out when you see a Muslim apostate, you are no longer a Muslim because you're not following the law of Islam. That's the point I'm trying to make. Then you're not a Muslim then if you don't do it.
Okay, then you're not a Muslim, but still.
But you can't say that they are better than the gods they worship if they don't worship or carry the laws of their God.
Is it in your own eyes, is it not better that they are better than their God? Is it not a good thing?
If it's not their God, then it can't be better than something that they don't worship, can they?
Yeah, but then what is happening, then 99% of the Muslims are no longer Muslims.
There's the point.
Okay, but then it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
You can't tell a Muslim, okay, yes, you say you're a Muslim, but you're not a Muslim because you don't do X.
Well, yeah, that's exactly it. Then you run through the list. Do you pray 5 times a day? No, then you're not a Muslim. Do you not do this? No, you're not a Muslim. Do you not do that? You're not a Muslim. That's the point I'm trying to make. The killing the apostates is merely one, or if you like, conditions that make or identify you a Muslim. A simple statement, because my dad was a Muslim and I learned Islam by rote, is simply not good enough. That's wrong, and it's deceptive. It's deceptive to themselves, and it's deceptive to the people that they're making the claim to.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Except I am not that dogmatic and going to say, okay, actually, you're no longer a Muslim. I prefer saying, yes, okay, I accept that you're a Muslim, but you have learned to differentiate. The same thing as Christians. In the Bible, it also says, even if your brother decides to leave the God, then you need to kill him. Yeah, but people don't do that because they are better than their God.
You've just used the word they've differentiated. That is like a conscious decision to look at the information and make an intellectual decision based on the evidence that I will or will not do this.
Precisely.
But they haven't done that. That's what I'm trying to get at. They've not made the decision to say, Alice told me to do this. You know what? I'm not going to do it.
I think they have.
Well, if then there are no Muslims anymore, are they then? Where do you
but then the Christians are no longer Christians.
Exactly. That's what I said last week. Last week I said, if you go
I have to ask you, Thunderous, I have to ask you, what is a Muslim? What is the main criteria to be a Muslim? Well, is it every little literal was written by a Muslim who calls himself Muslim, and to take it as law, as some kind of Sharia, and of course the Quran and the Surah and all Hadiths and every tafsir and every tawil, etc. Or what is Muslim in your eyes?
What you just said there is absolutely spot on. However, I'll ask you the question: at what point is a person not a Muslim? I agree with you. Yeah, I agree with you. Everything you just said, yes, that's what constitutes a Muslim. How can a person not? Actually, I'll go one further. As I don't even believe in the tafsirs and that and other people's third-party opinions. It's what the Quran and Hadith teaches, period. I don't need no commentary, some biased or prejudiced commentary to tell me what Islam is. If Allah says the Quran was made simple, easy to understand, I don't need some Mickey Mouse scholar for $1 to tell me what the Quran teaches. The Quran will teach.
I agree on this point. I agree with you, and I would even say the Hadiths I don't count at all. I would even say the Quran should be enough. But what says the Quran to be a Muslim? I asked you, what is in your eyes the main?
The Muslim would be everything that the Islamic religion states. The manifesto of Islam and what constitutes a Muslim is exactly what it says in the Quran and Hadith. And any deviation from that, in my opinion, is not a Muslim then.
Yeah, but then you can't have a Muslim because there are contradictions in the Quran and the Hadiths, and then the Quran between the Hadiths. Everything is contradictory, so you cannot be a Muslim.
I totally get that, but there are certain things that don't contradict. For instance, pray 5 times a day, give zakat, go on the Hajj, or
there are no 5 times a day. You see, that is an error by your knowledge, if I could say. There is no 5 times.
What way? If I could bring some surahs and some Quranic texts, surahs and hadith now. Where am I wrong? You can't
No,
just make
it's not Quran only, it's hadiths also. It's the Sunnah and the Quran.
Yeah, the Islam stands on two legs. One is the leg of the Quran, the other one is the leg of the hadith. Yes,
Okay. Now, if they contradict one another, how can I be a Muslim? How can I, if it says, please feel free to drink alcohol, and then it says, no, you're not allowed to drink alcohol. So how am I going to be a Muslim? Do I drink alcohol or not?
Well, a logical conclusion to that would be, well, which one came first and which one came last? And me and you have already discussed this. You don't believe in abrogation, but I do.
Okay. Which one came first? Be good to your parents?
The latter one will, if you like, cancel the former one.
Okay. If you take two sentences in the Quran, be good to your parents, don't be good to your parents, be good to your parents, what do you do?
Oh dear, I'm not sure on that one. You've got me on that one. If it says that in there somewhere.
Yeah, it says, be good to your parents. It's prohibited to be good to your parents. Be good to your parents. So it's like a yo-yo. It says this, it says the other. So how do you decide? You need to cherry pick. So at the end of the day, it's the personal choice. It's my choice to say I am a Muslim because I take the tenets, the central tenets for me are prayer, Hajj, Zakat, the 5 pillars. And there you go. And now I'm a Muslim. Whether I now go and subscribe to every single little detail in the Quran and which one of them I then apply is a different story. If I go and dip a fly in the drink, then I'm a Muslim. If I don't dip the fly in the drink, am I now a non-Muslim? You see, those are the things where I say, no, we can't do that. You can't go and tell every single little thingy in there.
Not everything has a counterpoint, and the dip in the fly, because one wing is the disease and the other wing is the cure, isn't actually a law. It was a suggestion.
Okay, but this is exactly my point. Do you need to do this to be a Muslim?
Well, I don't know. That's a very good question. No, I was never a Muslim. I was brought up as one, but I never accepted it. I've made that clear.
Okay, this is the point. So this is why I'm saying, yes, there are Muslims. Yes, they are not all following it. Yes, not all of them are fully aware of what the text said. But we do have Muslims. We have Muslims who follow the 5 pillars, at least who try. Not everybody can afford to go on Hajj. Not everybody can, what it says in the Quran, read the Quran, because the majority of Muslims are illiterate. So they can't do that in the first place. So yes, I accept we have Muslims who are not perfect according to the text. And out of those, a lot of them know that they should be killing the people, and yet they don't. A lot of people say, you should go and do X, yet they don't. And this is a conscious decision that they make, where they are saying, I have a choice. I'm making the choice. I am taking the liberty of saying, no, God, I'm sorry, you are wrong. I will not do that. And that's it. And this is why I am saying, number one, most Muslims are better than their God. Number two, it's a political ideology. And number three is we need to understand what we're talking about before we talk about it.
Have you never considered asking a Muslim why he won't kill an apostate?
Oh, yeah.
And what do they say?
I mean, because it's not it's not a command as such. It is only valid in certain circumstances.
Those circumstances are not mentioned, though, are they?
No.
So have you not sort of said, well, you're lying?
Well, yes, but it's as soon as you attack, you see, this is the old thing. If you go to a Muslim imam, if you go to a scholar, if you go to anyone, a Quran teacher, or any one of those guys who really are deep in the Islam itself, they will tell you that everything is geared towards protecting Islam. So if an apostate leaves Islam quietly and does not then, get involved in anti-Islam propaganda, nobody is going to bother him. The same as with non-believers. If a non-believer is just quiet about it and doesn't go and criticize Islam, there's no reason to go and deal with him. But as soon as they go and attack, as soon as there is a war, as soon as there is warfare against Islam, and I said to you, but what is your definition of war? What is your definition of warfare? And that's when it starts getting interesting, because that got them talking. Is writing a book about it, is that already warfare? And this is something that they themselves, even the scholars in the Islamic Culture Center, did not know.
But this is the point, where we are, you and I are have to disagree, because yet again, we're having to go to third-party sources to define when the surahs, sorry, not so much the surahs, but the hadith make it clear, if a man leaves, not if he teaches against the religion, if a man leaves the religion, kill him. So he doesn't have to teach. The actions of a man leaving the religion, whatever religion you're in, okay, depending on like your own actual behavior. But if you decide to leave the religion of your own volition and your own cognitive decision, you are making the claim by your actions, this religion is not true.
Yes.
And then that declaration is then, by an implication, a statement to society. This is why the Muslims have to kill you, because you're basically saying to the whole world, Allah is not the truth, Muhammad is not a prophet. That's why they have to kill you. Your actions, you don't have to say anything, you don't have to write a bloody book about it. Your actions speak louder than words, and they know this.
I know that. The point is, this is where the mental acrobatics come in. This is where the
mental acrobatics will come in when you get counter-argued with, but you're just making a no-true Scotsman's argument. But that's what they'll do.
Anyway,
not Muslims, but educated people.
What I wanted to say is this is where the mental acrobatics come in, where they start now talking about that the Quran supersedes the Hadith. So nothing can be more authoritative than the Quran itself. And the Quran talks about warfare and talks about a sort of a defense position that you need, because as soon as they desist, do not follow them. Leave them alone. And that is what these people are now saying. If somebody does not do that, does not go and attack Islam, then there is no reason to go and persecute them any further, because that's what it says in the Quran. I know it's mental acrobatics. Yes, I know it's mental masturbation even, but that is how they work. This is what I have seen happen in those people, in the discussions with the really, really knowledgeable people.
I didn't mean to catch you on this point. Sorry.
No, come on. No, I don't claim to be the holder of truth and knowledge. I'm just talking out of my experience. And if somebody can correct me, absolutely, that is the way that I learn. Like I learned today about this Buddhism and Hinduism, that Hinduism has God figures that are not due to reincarnation, which was something that I thought. So I'm quite happy to accept that there are things that I do not know, and that's it. And Ike is saying, you also said that there is evidence for the existence of Jesus, right?
Yeah, and funny enough, I was going to put this in the in the comment section. At the moment, as bizarre as it may be, Jehovah's Witnesses are handing out an Awake magazine called "Was Jesus a Real Person?" So I thought to myself, as soon as I saw that, because we have a trolley of Jehovah's Witnesses outside the store I work, I thought I'll put that in the notes. But now that you've mentioned it, I'll mention it to you. The latest Awake magazine actually covers the subject, "Was Jesus a Real Person?"
Do you have a link to the latest Awake magazine?
Well, you can just go to their website, jw.org.
Okay, so I need to go to jw.org, look what they say about Jesus to refute you.
Well, you can refute them as well. You're refuting everybody that says.
That doesn't work like that, Thunderous. Last time you said you would provide the evidence. So at least you can give us direct links to articles or old books or something like that. Similar to the thing I give you, like evidence that the Quran describes the Jews and Christians corrupted the old sayings of gods, etc.
It doesn't say that. There's nowhere in the Quran it says the Jews and the Christians corrupted.
I gave you last time. I did give you the passages from the Quran.
But which passages are those? Can you give it again? Because I've got two Qurans here now. One of them being the Yusuf Ali. I'd love to read it.
Yeah, I can look. I do better jobs than you. I will do that again. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, and T.S. there is just making an excellent point, and I agree with this theory. That religious apologetics are created simply to delay reasonable people from concluding that a religion is shed just long enough for the religion to indoctrinate the next generation. And this is the concept that Dr. Darrell, what's his surname? Darrell, I forgot his surname. He's a psychologist and a clinical psychologist, and he wrote a book about the religion being a virus. And I have his book somewhere. And he propagates exactly this idea that there is a virus that gets transmitted, and then people try and hold people off until the virus can replicate and infect the next generation, and that is it. Yes, I agree. Oh, the Speaker's Corners is here. Hi. Okay, then let's quickly go to back to the news, because I had this with the US titles that you need to address Gadsad with your most excellent, magnificent Lord of the Universe, Emperor of all things, Professor Dr. Gadsad. Like the Quranic God needs to be addressed in all sorts of ways. And he, of course, is the best of all creators, even though he fails 80% of the time. The other piece is that Kurds, and this is now quite strange. I mean, this is so sad, because Kurds are fighting for survival, because Kurds want to live in this area. I don't know why they want their own country. I mean, why would they want that? Why would people, a small group who just have some commonality, immediately want their own country? But they are living in an area which is roughly, on the southeast of Turkey, where Iran and Iraq and all these countries come together, and they are looking at survival only. And they are hitting ISIS, and Turkey doesn't like the Kurds, because the Kurds are saying, no, we need to be secular, we need to be this and this. So there are a couple of things where Turkey and Kurds, and the Kurds are angry at Ankara because they're not being given any territory, things like that. But now Turkey is not hitting the Kurds, is now bombing Kurds, but not ISIS. So it looks as though Erdogan is saying, no, I want to live and I want to work together with ISIS, with Daesh. I never know whether to call them Daesh or ISIS. Anyway, ISIS, Daesh, ISIL, IS, whatever. So is Baghdadi going to be the next president of Turkey, or how is this going to work? I don't know what the story is going to be there. Who is going to be doing what to whom? Okay, then I have a couple of news items which I'm quickly going to put on here, which is this. So we have Egyptian children who are not supposed to get married to one another, but still are. Now, in this case, the guy on the left is 12, and the girl with this heavy makeup and this silver dress is 11. And the way that it works is you have this rich father who has a daughter and who says, as long as I can pick a guy, a suitable guy from a good family, from an influential, wealthy Egyptian family, I will do so. I am not going to let some Tom, Dick, and Harry get, I don't know, whatever, with his daughter. So that all he's doing, he's actually protecting his daughter from the influence of some obnoxious guy whom he doesn't want to see together with his daughter. So this is why he is selecting this boy, and they are saying, well, they've always had feelings for each other. They're fucking 12, she's 11. I mean, she looks like 35 or something. And they're saying they've always had feelings, and now they've just gone according to their wishes and said, well, they're going to get married at some stage. And you have this, I mean, look at this. Look how this woman is dressed, how this child is dressed up. This is crazy. And society is actually screaming, how can you allow that? How can you do that? And yet here they are, this is exactly what they're doing. And now in Egypt, this is happening in other places, where here, there's another couple here, where he is, I think, 12 or something, and she's 10 even, or something like this. And all that they're trying to say is, well, I'm protecting my daughter, and I'm protecting my daughter from the influence of some stupid guy that might get fresh with my daughter. And this is how you get childhood marriages and in Islam. And everybody is saying, no, it's an Egyptian problem, of course. It has nothing to do with Islam. It's only in Egypt where they are doing this. Now, this is something I found in lot. I mean, I've used the Fox News one. Oh, if I take these news, I always make sure that this is corroborated in other media, that this is not only one single one. And here I chose the Fox News version. And this is quite sad. From different levels. Because number one, Jews are saying we have a right to our country because it is God-given. It's the God-promised country. How they establish that, I do not know, because they have never established that a God exists. So why would a God be able to give them a country if they don't even have a God available to, for us to investigate this? I mean, we can't look at that. And they're saying, well, we got this. And now this God is saying, well, now I don't care anymore. Now the Muslims can have it. Well, the Christians can have it. And now the Muslims can have it. And now the Muslims are going crazy because the Jews have this festival, which is all about celebrating and blah, blah, blah. And now the Muslims are coming and say, well, actually, no, fuck you, Charlie, you're out. You're no longer allowed to do anything. It is our mosque. It is our hill. It is our area. All Jerusalem is ours, and it's in the name of Palestine. So what they're doing is simply pretending as though Palestine is something that everybody understands. It's not. Nobody knows what Palestine is. Nobody knows where Palestine is. There are no maps in history which refer to Palestine as a specific border country or something like that. No, it's always just been like the Black Forest or something. It's a region. And they're saying, well, this is now in the name of Palestine and the capital must be Jerusalem. Is Jerusalem ever once mentioned in the Quran? No, never. Muhammad flew to the Al-Aqsa Mosque, which didn't even exist when Muhammad was supposed to be around. So the whole thing does not make sense, and yet people are accepting it, where Muslims are simply putting it under your nose and saying, okay, we've established the fact and that is it. And now UNESCO, funny enough, is playing ball. They're agreeing and they're saying, okay, we have all these countries like Algeria, Egypt, Lebanon, Morocco, Oman, Qatar, Sudan, and they are claiming that it's the cultural heritage of Palestine. And it's not. And yet a lot of people are agreeing with this. And that is what I find like really terrible and sad, that Jews can't go and say anything else because it's their God that is saying this. They can't say, well, it's our culture, it's our heritage, we've been here for millions of years and therefore da 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 da. No, they can't do that. They say, well, it's God-given. Well, the other guy say, well, no, it's our God gave us this. Now it's the battle of the gods. Well, it's the same God. So this is so terrible. And I think Jews are crazy, okay? Because there are people who are actually going here. They're writing little notes and saying, dear God, I don't want any more pimples. And they put this note into this wall, thinking that overnight the God is going to come up and pick up the piece of paper and say, Moshe doesn't want any more pimples. Moshe, oh, did I give you pimples? Well, I've just changed my mind. Okay, your pimples are gone. Is that what they is that what they think? That a God comes around and reads their little notes and then decides, well, 50-50, either you get your wish or you don't?
Well, to be a little bit more fair on this issue, I mean, they only have this wall, so what could they do? Anything else? Before they had the temple. Yeah, they had their temple, right? And their temple is gone, and now all is left is this wall. So they can't go to a temple anymore, so they only can use this wall as a somehow earthly connection to the God, the most holy place on earth, as a connection to their God.
Yeah, but they have this place which apparently is where Abraham was supposed to sacrifice his son and then didn't. And then the Muslims disagree which one of the sons it was, and this is exactly under this golden thing there, the Dome of the Rock. And now the Dome of the Rock is no longer allowed to be called Dome of the Rock. It's now supposed to be called Al-Haram al-Sharif. So Abraham is common to all three Abrahamic religions. That's why they're called that. So how can Muslims say, no, this is our property, nobody else? I mean, and the thing, you should read this. They are saying they have Muslim police looking at people if anybody is mumbling something under their breath, because if they are, that means they are praying, and that means they need to be evicted. You're not even allowed to move your lips when you are going to this Dome of the Rock. It's crazy. It's childish. It's absolutely crazy. But yes, they only have the Wailing Wall left. Okay, well, big deal. I mean, they have the temple. Why didn't they rebuild the temple on this place? Because then we would have a real competition. We would have a race. And then, you know, maybe they could come to some sort of agreement. But they left it saying, we will never rebuild it because it's a symbol and blah, blah, blah. And then the Muslims came in and said, well, cheers, thank you very much. Now we're going to put this, what's it, circumambulation shrine on there. Okay, advice for Wise Squad. Let's go to Saudi Arabia. This is the good news, because they are now telling the Mutawin, the religious police, to be more sociable. Because the Mutawin were getting incredibly powerful. And anybody who was a criminal, who was pardoned because he learned the Quran, was able to be part of the Mutawin and be part of the religious police. And then they became religious police, and they could even tell the royal family, listen, you're not allowed to wear this in this shopping mall, for example. So they sent them home so that they could change their clothes, because one of the girls had a strand of hair coming out or something like this. It's preposterous. It's I don't know. And then they said, well, come on, guys, you can't be that bad. You need to behave a little bit, be a little bit more sociable, be a little bit more understanding. Yes, you can reprimand, but you are now no longer allowed to arrest the people. All you can do now is call the police and tell them, listen, we don't agree with this, and then the police can decide and make it into criminal law and not just religious law, which I think is a step in the right direction, but it's it's still childish in my head. Okay, then you have, and this is now very interesting, because I don't know if you remember a couple of years ago, I made a video where I used the data from Pew and some polls and things like that, and I used my own personal observation, and I came up with this, with this idea, with this thesis, I don't know what you want to call it. And I said, Islam is actually shrinking. Islam is dying because the ideas are no longer accepted. And now it seems that I was spot on, because now more and more data is appearing where people are saying, yes, we are seeing now that, for example, the Muslims that come to the US are now starting to have second thoughts about this, who are saying, no, we are not going to agree with Sharia. We are no longer interested in living the life of a Muslim. And they're showing here the different generations, how this declines from the first level to the next level. Now, if you then look at, and they take different data and they present it in different ways. For example, Muslims who find homosexuality morally acceptable doubled, within just a couple of years. So something that was unthinkable like 10 years ago, it is slowly happening. It's nearly half the Muslims by now in the US are starting to accept it, even though it is something that is definitely not seen as, desirable in the Quran or the Hadith, well, even less so in the Hadith. I mean, people in Muslim, like in ISIS, ISIL, IS, Daesh territory, are being killed for exactly this. And here in the US, people are saying, well, actually, it's not that bad. So this is amazing how this has changed. Then the same thing is and this is exactly the point that I was making with Thunderous earlier on. Is the Quran literal or yes or no? And where in the past, the people who used to say, nah, not really, was only a third. Well, now it's nearly half. So the people are learning to take everything with a pinch of salt. And this is why Islam is now actually dying, because the actual form, the literal form, the old form, the Salafi version, the Wahhabi version is out. People don't accept it anymore. That's why you have so many atheists in Saudi and KSA now. And here you see the effect in other countries. And you see that the people where originally human law can never be of a higher value or level or authority than God's law, this is now out. There are more and more Muslims who are saying, no, we need to accept this. We can't go and simply go on about this, that we have to live under God's law. So, okay, another one. Oh, this I've seen. Why do I still have this? Okay, this, I don't know if this is going to be a game changer. It wasn't the last time, even though somebody, and I think it was actually the president who said there is a line, there's a red line. If this is being crossed, then we're really going to be crossed. Well, they didn't. And now, apparently, and this is from Al Jazeera, they say that Syria forces a chemical attack. Now, how much of this is true? And where does it come from? What is being used by whom, in what concentration, based on what? So this is a very difficult one to establish, but I think something needs to happen here. We need to come to an agreement. Are we going to make the same mistake and chuck out like we did with Hussein? Hussein was chucked out, and this caused an even greater chaos. So is it now time to learn from this and say, well, take the lesser of the two evils, keep Assad in there. Yes, he's going to kill people. Yes, he's going to cleanse anybody who does not believe in his way of ruling the country. Or do we really go and have this, I don't know, this civil war, this whatever, for decades? I don't know. I think we need to talk about this. Okay, this is so funny. In Italy, the authorities have said, no, enough is enough. We're not going to have any more mosques. People can pray as much as they want to, and they do not need to do this in mosques. And they said, no, you're not allowed to build any more mosques. And they are, well, they're turning down applications, and a couple of them have been closed on grounds which are, well, a bit stupid. I mean, not enough toilets in the mosque, therefore the mosque has to close. It's a bit funny. But Italy has decided, no, we're not going to have Muslims, and if they're going to pray out in public, okay, well, if it rains, well, tough tacky. This is actually a good test. Make it rain, and then watch how many of these Muslims still come back when it rains, who really want to do this because it's the wish of their God, and how many are just doing this as a sign of protest. So I don't know. This is show of force. Should be interesting to watch what is going to happen there. Okay, so there we go. Let's go to apologetics, shall we?
I understood it was not so much they didn't want any more mosques in Italy, is they didn't want any more garage mosques, which they considered to be possible recruiting spots for jihadists.
That is correct, but it's very difficult to distinguish, one from the other. So they just said, listen, we're going to not grant any more applications for mosque building.
And I also read in the news today something about China. I'm trying to get it back up again. But if you don't mind my just pulling the story off the top of my head, they're going to make it illegal for parents to teach their children about Islam.
Sorry, in what way?
Yeah, I found it. It's in the Independent, dated the 17th. Parents cannot organise law or force minors into attending religious activity, according to this article.
Yeah, but how are you going to police that?
It's China.
Okay, but how are they going to police that?
Police it with their secret police. They get people to snitch on you.
Oh, okay.
It's an authoritarian state, isn't it, China?
Okay. Oh, well, whatever they want to do in China. Okay, Speaker's Corner. Do you want to give us a quick rundown what you did today? Did you have fun talking to apologists in Speaker's Corner in the Hyde Park in London, UK? Oh, he's not. He's listening. He's away at the moment.
Probably fell asleep.
Okay, we want to talk about apologetics a bit. There's different ways of addressing this. Okay, it's a pity there's no Muslim here, so we could do this online, because
Ex-Muslims, pick on one of them.
because you could address you can use different approaches. Okay, you can go and you can say, okay, why do you believe what you believe, and let's take a look and scrutinize your belief. Or you can go and say, okay, give me your best shot, or your best reason why it is that you are a Muslim, and then they will come back with either the Quran or some stupidity like science and things like it, and then you can address that. Or what they will do in a lot of cases, they will say, like, well, the Quran is the miracle itself, and they will say that it is impossible for a person like Muhammad to come up with the Quran. So it must have been a God, because all the different things that you have different words in there, that you have sentences, that you have so many different tenses and different, I don't know what they come up with. And then it's the surah like it, and then it's this, and then it's that, and it's the challenge of the Quran itself, and then it's the grammar, and it's the perfect thing that the first and the second are like rings of a tree, because the second chapter starts with this and ends with this, and then in the middle it's this, and there is a word called middle in the middle of the second chapter, and this proves that this is the word of God. Now, how childish do you need to be before this works? I mean, that's crazy. So there are different approaches that you can take, and then what happened is that Speakers Corner UK and I, we had a chat on what the best ways are to address this, how to facilitate this. And one thing would be, like, if somebody has more knowledge in one area than the other, you could use Periscope, for example, to go and record it, and others could give suggestions to move it along, so that the person is not dependent on their one sort of approach, that they can rely on others to help them out. Rob, you found your microphone. Welcome.
Yes, no, I'm here. I was just chatting to the wife. Just got back here, so got a couple of videos to put up today. So yeah, no, it's good to be here. Hi to everybody. I see a few names there. So yeah.
So what do you do?
I only actually spoke to about 3 or 4 people, and that took 4 hours. So I ended up with long conversations. A couple of Muslims, and then the one guy that is an atheist that's got some philosophical training. We talked for like an hour. He was teaching me a few things and so forth. I got a recording of him today with the tall guy, Brother Muhammad, the very tall guy that's like 6'7" or whatever, that wanders around. They went on for about 50 minutes. If you're interested,
the one I call the gay.
Yes, that one. Yeah. So that was about 50 minutes long. So only a warning. I'll probably say something on the channel, warning, if you're interested in philosophy, listen to this. If not, don't bother, because otherwise it'll be over most people's heads. So yeah, that was a long one, but I wanted to ask you guys here, and I had 2 long conversations, one about, well, 2 of them are cosmological type of conversations, and I wanted to throw out a syllogism for you guys to tell me where I'm going wrong, if in fact I am, or how I can improve it. Because this whole business of Muslims saying that the universe was created from nothing, and that the universe is in every way completely separate from the creator, just doesn't seem coherent to me.
No. And I watched you in a video with, oh shit, I can't remember with who. Yeah, no, this was the one that I took as video of the week, where you were with this red bearded guy and another guy from EF Dawah.
Oh yes, that wasn't such a good one. Unfortunately, Abbas from EF Dawah jumped
Abbas,
in there.
that's the one I always forget.
Yeah, and just started going off about how lexically great the Quran is, and like myself and Hamza were talking about, he was trying to put the Kalam cosmological argument towards
I was screaming at you at the screen.
Yeah, he was trying to put it in a different way, though. Basically, he was obviously just trying to get to the universe as a cause, but in a slightly different way. And then Abbas came in there, and I recognized Abbas because that's the first time I've actually spoken to him in like the 8 months I've been going there. And obviously I told him about that time with a video with that cosmologist that was quite frustrating, because he kept interrupting a guy that actually knew a lot. And then he went off on that lexical dialect. And to me, that's utterly unconvincing. You could take another book and tell me that, you find the number 17, 15 times, and, this half is the same as that half. That would only convince somebody that's so completely into it already. They go, wow, that's extra evidence. For the rest of us, we're going, man, I can pick up, one of Shakespeare's books and give you the same sort of thing. That is utterly unconvincing.
Well, people have done this with Moby Dick, so yeah.
Let me try this on you though. So this whole universe from nothing.
Sorry, but I had to laugh when he said, "I'm looking at the sun and I need to go and throw myself on the ground."
Okay, I've forgotten that. But who was that? Was that Abbas or was that
Yes.
Hamza?
I saw the sun. I need to go pray.
Right. Yes. They did that tonight as well. It was obviously getting dark, and then there was a whole long line, and they all, well, not all of them actually. Interestingly enough, I don't know how they choose who goes and who doesn't. I mean,
No, this is the difference. Hanafi,
Hanbali,
Shafi, it depends on your jurisprudence take and your group that you belong, your personal group.
Right, okay. Because I saw a whole long line of them, but then I'm talking to Muslims and I'm going, okay, how come you're not all praying at the same time? Obviously,
it's exactly this.
Um,
Okay, hit us.
Okay, go for it.
Can I ask just shortly? So you didn't say the Shahada today, right?
Me? No. Yeah, it's going to be. I wouldn't. I don't because of. Sorry, carry on.
Was there any point in the whole conversation you had with these people that they made you really think about something at all, or was it like? Have I to listen to this stuff? Have I to listen to this kind of crap? Or was that really a point that you said, well, that's actually a really, really good argument?
I've not come, because before I came to Speaker's Corners, I was obviously interested in religion, and I knew most of the bigger arguments and so forth. So, I mean, it's very rare. There've been occasions when I've gone away, and most of the time when I leave Speaker's Corners, it's more a case of like, okay, what could I have said better? I missed this point, or I missed that. I've not really gone away from there and gone, there's an earth-shatteringly good argument that I've heard that I've never heard before, or really, that's got me thinking extremely deeply. I mean, there's been one or two cases. The one was that how do I account for rationality? Because I was quite prepared because we're talking apologetics, I was quite prepared for the Saitan Bruggencate type of apologetic. But then that guy Imran, threw up the rationality. And a few, like I think T.S. Dave and others have sort of mentioned that I didn't give the best response there. So most of the time it's a case of not giving the best response.
Just as I was reviving you. I hope he laughs. Oh, he's come.
Sorry, say that again. I can't hear you that well. Sorry, V, what did you say? I didn't hear you.
No, I think he didn't speak to us.
Oh, okay. So yeah, it's not been a case that any position of my worldview has in any way really been threatened. It's more a case of like I've missed certain things that they've said, either that I've thought about afterwards or when I've watched videos back again. But for me, there's three big things. One is obviously the existence of some type of deity. Then it's getting to their particular deity, and then it's the moral side of it. Why should I in any way, supplicate to this particular deity if it's an all-powerful, all-knowing thing? Why on earth should I, bow down on my knees eternally? This is just incomprehensible to me.
Yeah, because Ike is so fascinated with this, he's going to join you. So he's going to fly over to London, and he has already ordered his jacket he's going to wear, which is going to enable him to have a lot of legroom on the flight back, because it's going to be in an ambulance jet.
Who's this? Is this other gentleman that's contacted me directly? Is that who you mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's me.
Ah, there you are, sir. Yeah. Brilliant. Sweet. Yeah, no, looking forward to having you over, and we can definitely do a lot of videos. The other thing that I notice, I'm trying different things to find because I don't have a cameraman. And here's an interesting point. I won't say who, but a particular Muslim, I happened to come across it by accident on GoFundMe. He'd run this GoFundMe campaign and made just under £8,000 to get a cameraman and to do editing. I'm like, my goodness, if I had $8,000, the people sponsored me, I could have cameramen all over the place, doing like 20 or 30 videos every single Sunday. My biggest challenge is having a camera person that'll film me, because, when I put a camera out, people are not all, unless they're the regulars, they're not always that keen to be filmed. It's like, you've got a camera in your face. So I find it a bit challenging trying to record all the conversations.
Yeah, it's a pity I'm not in the UK. I'd love doing that on a weekend, because I'm very limited here, because here you only have these lies people, and they know you, okay, after a while, because it's always the same guy, so they will not talk to you anymore.
All right, okay.
Okay, hit us with okay, one quick thing.
Go for
There
it.
are different versions of the cosmology argument, okay? So if not everybody uses the William Lane Craig Kalam version. So there are different versions. You have the basic one, and then you have the more advanced one. So it always depends on which version you hit with.
Yes, no, I'm not going towards that specifically. Muslims make the claim that Allah created the universe from nothing, and that the universe is in every way possible separate from Allah. That's what I'm challenging. To me, that's a philosophical kind of point, because there's no other way that we can sort of show that. And obviously that's what's in the Quran, or words to that effect. But that proposition, for want of a better word, seems problematic to me. And here's what they all agree on. So here's my 3 premises. Before the universe, God was all or everything there was, and there was nothing else. Now, I've tested that again today. Every Muslim I know of accepts that before the universe, God was all there was. So that's premise 1. Premise 2, God created the universe. Nobody has a problem with that, although Muslims then add in, of course, the from nothing, which is problematic for me. Premise 3, God is omnipotent. Muslims don't say apparently that he's omnipresent, so I'll leave that out, but God is omnipotent, infinite, and eternal. Conclusion, therefore, God had created the universe from God's self, or essence, God's essence. So I put that to somebody today, and he obviously was quite happy with the first 3 premises, and then he said, no, I reject the last one. I said, on what basis? Give me a reason why. And so that's what I will throw out to you guys, is that's if I put myself in a Muslim's worldview, that to me is the most parsimonious and coherent explanation for that creation event. But of course, that goes contrary to the Muslim view on how creation happened.
Yeah. Okay, but I already disagree with the first one, because in the Quran it says that he created the throne above the water. So the water must have been there before the throne, before God was there.
He created the throne above the waters.
Uh-huh.
But did he not create the waters? I mean,
No.
no Muslim that I'm aware of would argue with this point. I mean, I know you are kind of going in deeply, but I guess I'm just thinking because you're actually kind of taking it even a step further.
Yes.
On my side, but I'm trying to be as generous and as charitable as I can with the views that I know virtually every Muslim I speak to holds. So I'm not trying to go outside of that. I want to be in their worldview and then go, okay, according to your worldview, is this coherent to you?
That's why I introduced it with I would even. Okay, now I understand what you're saying. I don't even know what to say to this, because their view, okay, you need to understand 2 things. A Muslim cannot conceptualize. They cannot think in abstract thoughts. So what they need is this, I push the button here and the light goes on there. So the way that they figure this is that there is a frame, like a wooden frame, which are the physical constants, which God defined. Now what happens, he takes a couple of marbles, throws them on the table within this framework, and they will arrange themselves in this wooden frame. This is how they envisage this. And therefore, God can be outside of all this, because then he has set everything up so that it is already fine-tuned, so that Earth will be the planet that it is today, in the position where it is today, with the sun and moon and everything orbiting around it.
Sure, yes, I agree that they say that. I mean, that's not specifically addressing my argument per se, because this is their claim. So I'm not pulling this out of thin air. This is the claim from them. Now, typically the biggest objection I get is, oh, well, you can't talk about space and time because that's only in the universe. And my response is, well, at some point, you guys, Muslims, say God was all there was. And then at some point in that continuum of infinity, let's say, a universe came into being.
Yeah, well,
so there's some kind of time frame.
No, but you can't do that. You see, if you look at it philosophically, you cannot go and say at some point if there is no time, because there needs to be a starting point of something somewhere, and it needs to be in the brain of God that suddenly, at some point in time, he decided now is the right time to create the universe.
Yes, but I mean, they're happy with that. I mean, I don't think a Muslim would object to that point.
Yeah, but then you say there's no time yet.
No, but I'm saying there is a time because we can conceptualize it. And I would call it God time rather than space and time within the universe, because we can conceptualize a version of space and time outside of the universe. Imagine the universe is like a balloon that you're slowly inflating, because that would be the closest analogy. The universe is expanding outwards, which also sort of asks the question, what is it expanding into? So these are all conceptual philosophical points, really, because this is the claim they make. And I, as I say, my premises there seem to be more coherent and have the law of parsimony on my side.
Just for the information, GPZ informed you about a video of God and cosmology.
Yeah, I was waiting for everyone to stop speaking so I could talk, because I do know a little bit more about this subject from a physics angle. I can't really talk, the dog's attacking me. Look, all I want to say is, quite quickly, is I've put a link to a video where an actual astrologist has a debate with William Lane Craig. Now, a lot of Muslims use the William Lane Craig arguments to support the Qur'an and Islam. And this astrophysicist totally makes William Lane Craig look like an absolute buffoon, because he talks science.
Yes, I've seen it. Brilliant.
It is that should be your core of your chat to any Muslim, quite honestly. And as for the universe being created out of nothing, the physicists say, what do you mean by nothing? There are different types of nothing.
Agreed. But that's a separate point. I'm not talking from I'm actually saying let's put science aside, because once you talk about what happens prior to the universe, we're in philosophical, speculative territory. But the only reason I'm going there is because of the Muslim claim about how God supposedly created the universe, which I find incoherent just on the surface. So I'm not even looking at science. I'm putting cosmology aside and just saying, let's look at that claim. Can we conceptualize it? And is that something that we can explore?
Well, the only answer I've got to that is, your God did it out of magic. My universe was created through nature.
And they will obviously ask you, well, how? Give me an explanation of how did that happen? That will be the common response.
Then you would go to the astrologers' answers about how the universe was created through quantum mechanics. And it's way above their level anyway, but...
No, it's not.
Well, can we just separate now science in all? And I want to ask Rob more or less, did it not come into your mind the question about why this Hamza guy did at all talk about science the whole time, and what was his goal?
Are you talking about red-bearded Darren Hamza?
Yes. Because he talks all the time about cause and effect, and I mean, I know what he wanted to implement in a thought in the people's heads about, well, that has to be a cause, or the first mover, the primary cause of everything, blah blah blah. But he didn't really say God, the word itself. Okay, I give him that, but. Did never come to the question into your head, like asking, what is your goal with your science mumbo jumbo with you yourself don't understand, Hamza?
Well, I already knew where he was going to go, and that's why I actually mentioned, if you look in there, I talked about the Kalam, and he went, oh, I haven't even mentioned that. I haven't even talked about William, but I already knew the whole argument and what he wanted to do. And what I didn't, again, this is where I can always improve. And I look at the videos and go, okay, next time I have this conversation, it'll be better. I'm kind of learning live, for want of a better word. I'm not studying for 10 years and then going to do it.
Well, I don't think you have to study for 10 years. I personally would be much harsher on people like them. I would say, stop this nonsense. Just say, what is your goal with your useless science mumbo jumbo? What want you achieve with this whole discussion? Because I know what you want to achieve, but say it in the camera, say it in the lens of the video camera, etc. I personally would be much harsher on this thing.
Well, hopefully when you're
That's
there,
just
you
me.
can have a full go at it. I like to let them have their say. And hopefully you are there, or maybe you're not, when Shabir is there, because you would pull all your hair out if you had any hair to pull out. That would drive you absolutely nuts. But
Okay, but
Yeah, my only handicap is my little broken English, so that's the only thing
That's
which will stop me a little bit.
But actually, that might help you as well. So I wouldn't see that as a disadvantage. I speak to people there who don't have proper English, and maybe it's just me, I'm polite, but I can understand it's not their first language. So I actually want to listen a little bit to hear what they're saying before I cut them off, and not just cut them off because they can't speak English properly. So it may be your advantage it depends on who you're speaking to.
Could be, yes.
Okay, well, let's take a look at this again. Why is it that God needs to be separate?
The biggest reason, I suspect, and you tell me because you're more the Islamic expert than I am, the biggest reason is because God and his creation are separate, in which case then creation can be tested and there's a judgment. And the moment because if you get to a point where they could accept that creation and God are in some sense the same, then it becomes more of a panentheist type view, in which case judgment and punishment become very questionable. The moment they're separate things, he can judge his creation. The moment it becomes part of his creation, much more part of him, then it becomes even more incoherent, because now he's kind of judging a part of himself. And so
but then
I suspect
it's a contradiction, because God is anthropomorphic, because he has hands, he creates, he does things, he intervenes on a daily basis, he puts clay into the women's wombs to create babies and things like that. So it can't be like that.
Well, I agree. But again, there's such a woolly concept of what God is and his properties.
Exactly. This is what Carol, and by the way, the GPZ video that he pointed out is exactly the Professor Carroll one. This is exactly what Professor Carroll, what the first thing is, what he always says. God is undefined. Until you show me what a God is supposed to be, until you show me what life is supposed to be, until you show me all these things, go and define them. Then we can start talking, but you don't do that. This is exactly what you are pointing out now. In Speaker's Corner, the people will throw around words they don't themselves understand. And then they make you go and jump to conclusions because you are supposed to know what they mean with the words that they are using, which they themselves don't understand. I mean, if you look at I was freaking. How can he mention the double slit experiment? He doesn't have a clue what this is.
No, and what is inferred. And this is a thing, of course, that religious people do. They co-opt the little bits of science that they barely understand to support their position, and then reject everything they either don't understand or that's opposite to their position, which of course is, a lot of inconsistency and special pleading.
Yeah, exactly. And this is where you are. Now they're saying, okay, well, God is separate because they don't want him entangled in this, and they want to be him like the objective juror on top, like on the X Factor, the guy sitting off stage, going and looking at what is happening on stage. Now, if he creates everything that is on stage, knowing full well what is going to be on stage and what the people or whatever is on stage is going to do, and know already the outcome of what is going to happen on stage, what is the point of having a guy sitting outside knowing full well what will happen? So this is illogical.
I'm going to explore that particular second part of what you talked about there a bit more, because Ozymandias II seem to suggest that the whole concept of free will and omniscience isn't as incoherent. So I need to investigate that. To me, it seems incoherent, but there could be a philosophical point to be made or something there that I'm not aware of. So as soon as somebody very knowledgeable comes into it, I'm like, okay, let me go and investigate it a bit more.
I think Jay Smith has sort of like tackled this question, and he put forward the argument of the Qur'an, the one that's in heaven. How could it, was it created at the same time that God existed or started to exist, if it's eternal itself?
Do Muslims actually claim that the Quran is internal, as in the words, or the book, or what part is eternal? If there is
golden tablets.
I think it's the book that they can claim is eternal.
But of course, the book was only done well after 23 years after Muhammad died. So
no, that's the one.
No. The golden tablets in heaven.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's in the discussions since I think the 10th century. The people even discussed, well, something must have written this tablet. So even the pen itself has to be created before the Quran itself. So this discussion goes in the Islamic Muslim community since 1,000 years at least, I think. It's not nothing new to them, but still they haven't got the conclusion, because no real hadith says something clear about this issue.
It's extraordinary the lengths that people will go to hold on to, quote, cherished beliefs in the face of, overwhelming opposition.
Well, it's the paradox, isn't it? It's why the Christians...
No, I mean, at least they try to be logical, because you can write a book before you don't have a pen. So they at least saw these things and thought about these things. But still the conclusion is God has to be as the first cause, or as the primary mover of all things. That what came next is in the realm of discussion freely in the Muslim community. So they have to that's their freedom of questioning their belief, if you want to say so.
Okay, but if you look at the way that it's built up, then if you build a house, if you build a sandcastle, anything that you create, you need to be a part of it. You cannot create something where you are like completely removed. Or can you? If I create something through a robot, am I involved in the process? Well, yeah, because I built the robot, which is now creating what I told the robot to create. So I am part of it. So the idea is that they chuck these marbles out, and then you are not part of it, because it's like a hole covered in velvet or black velvet, and there's a small opening. You throw the marbles out, and then you retract. And then what do? How do you then interact with one of the marbles? How do you get an earthquake to happen on the marble if you are not part of that very marble? Now, the material, if they say that God is omnipotent, then God can say, I want matter to exist, and there's the matter. Boof. Then
Correct. Yeah.
I take the matter, chuck it out into this framework of the laws of physics, which I have identified and spoken into being. And now I combine the matter and the laws of physics and wait for gravity to do its thing. Then I create life, and I create consciousness, and Bob's your uncle. I think this was the model. So how can you be remote and at the same time be part of it? Because you need to be part of it, because you are the one who is holding up the aeroplane. Now, how can a God hold up an aeroplane if he's not part of our continuum? How can a God, I mean, in 13:13 it says very clearly, God is generating the thunder, which is the punishment for the non-believers, killing them. So if you have a God capable of creating and generating thunder which kills a specific person, then it must be part of this time-space continuum.
Well, he's dipping into it at the very least. Even if he's quite sitting outside, he's still dipping in some sense to make this happen. But they could easily argue that all he said, most Muslims don't, though, as far as I know. But so he set the universe in motion. Everything after that is just observations. I mean, that seems it's theoretically plausible. If you had an all-powerful God and he tweaked all the knobs and he went boom in a big explosion or expansion or inflation, and everything was set to run after that.
Okay, so what is holding up the aeroplanes?
Well, that's the laws of physics, let's call it. Which
no, it says in the Quran, he is holding it up personally.
Oh, does it? Okay. No, sorry, I'm just presupposing a view that somebody could have if they maybe ignored or tried to reinterpret some of the verses.
Yeah, but he's also hitting people with thunder individually.
Oh, okay, but like Zeus, that sort of thing.
Exactly.
Right, okay.
So there needs to be some sort of interaction, physical interaction here in this universe. So how does he do that?
Well, presumably that only happened way back in the 7th century. It's not happening anymore. So it only happened at one point or a few specific points way back when.
No, it's still happening.
Oh, it does.
Let me read this to you, for example, because I like this thunder one. And that's why I remember that it's 13:13. 13:13. Let's see what rationalizer has to say for this. The thunder sings his praises, and the angels too for awe of him. He sends thunderbolts and strikes whoever he will with them. Even then it is God they contend about. Mighty is he in his power. So he strikes whosoever he will with them. And that's it. The same thing with the piece of steak. I mean, this is sorry. This can happen exactly the way that you say it. But with the thunder, it needs to have a direct interaction. He sends thunderbolts, so he's doing this now. And I can go and check the birds, but I don't know from the top of my head the sentence of the Quran with the birds.
I mean, we can't disprove that he's throwing thunder, but is it reasonable to believe when we've got a very good scientific explanation for how thunder and lightning work? I mean, that's sort of a claim that would need an incredible amount of justification. I'm not sure how many people would actually, even in Speaker's Corner anyway, try to justify that position. So
Exactly.
probably ignore that.
And this is the point that I was going to go to at the end of the entire show today. The number one thing you need to do is ask questions and have them answer them. Ask, ask, ask. Don't tell them the Quran says. Go and put it into a question. Does the Quran, or are you aware of anywhere in the Quran where it says something like this? Let them answer the questions. Never go and say that, like what you said. I'm going to set you up and I'm going to prove that you are wrong. That's number one. You can't do that. It will never work. Number two, don't make claims. Particularly important with Shabir. Let them make the claims. As soon as you make the claim, you are out on a limb, and that is always dangerous. Don't do it. So I would formulate this.
You search it is 6:38. Stop spamming.
6:38.
See, I do hear you, Stops, and to a degree, I agree with you. And I think it's difficult to, well, certainly to Speaker's Corner. I think other forums allow that. It's difficult to go to Speaker's Corner potentially, or maybe it's just my view, and not answer any questions or not put out some claims. Because, for example, they asked me, okay, so like today, just before I had to leave them. So how did the universe? So one guy strawmanned me and said, "Oh, you atheists think that everything came from nothing by nothing." And I said, "Hang on a second, don't strawman my position. That's not what I say. Ask me what I believe, and I will tell you." And my number one view is that we don't know for sure. If you want to press me, then a reasonably good hypothesis is the quantum vacuum, which I think GPZ is obviously perhaps more knowledgeable about than I am. But that's a reasonable hypothesis, and it can be falsified if we've got a scientific theory that can test that. So, that seems a reasonable option for me. But the real answer is we don't know. But they often strawman the position.
Know. This is very, very important to be able to say we don't know convincingly without making, because the funny thing that I find is as soon as I say I don't know, then some Muslims seem to see it as a position of weakness.
Yes.
As a position of, well, if you don't know, I know, so therefore I am better than you, I win.
Yes, which is completely fallacious, of course. Just because I don't know doesn't mean you've got the right answer. If you haven't demonstrated or justified it, you don't just get to a certain answer. That's not how it works.
Exactly. And with this wing and the birds, I was right. There is not a thing that moves on the earth, no bird that flies on its wings. In other words, that's what it says now. That is today. There is not a thing that moves, no bird that flies today on the wings. So it's always God that is holding up the bird, and otherwise they can't fly. And because birds and aeroplanes are the same thing from aerodynamic point of view, all aeroplanes are being held up in the air by this God, even today.
Okay. I don't know that anybody will ever try and bring that position out.
Well, they have to. If they say that this God is not there, then there's a contradiction.
Well, how do you mean not there?
Present in this universe.
Oh, I see. Oh, as far as I know, they don't claim that he can't intervene in the universe. What they claim is that he and the universe are separate from a constituent part point of view. In other words, the parts are different. It's like a left hand and a right hand. It's not like one hand. It's separate, completely separate. And that goes back to my sort of syllogism where I don't find that coherent, because you've got to add in the creation from nothing, and then you've got to explain to me how a God that's all there was and it's eternal and all powerful, etc., can create something other than from his essence. Because they just say, oh, kun vaya kun, is that the correct way to say it? You just said be and it was. Well, that's fine. I understand those words that you're using. How did that happen? And then
actually, it's a grammatical error.
Huh?
It's a grammatical error because it says be and it is. So it should be and it was, but it doesn't. It's be and it is.
Can I put it in a simple way?
Yeah.
Okay. In Quran specifically says that one day of God is equal to 50,000 years of our reckoning.
Or 10.
And 50,000 years of human reckoning. And it also tells 1,000 years of one day of angels is 1,000 years of our reckoning. Now, it also says that Allah made the universe in 6 days. So if you take 6 days, that's 350,000 years. And if a Muslim believes that this earth was created in 350,000 years, if he believes that, then you can't argue with them. They are brainwashed. But if that, then they will, at that point, some of the moderates will start to give you other explanations which just don't exist. I mean, it's full of garbage all over the place. And I find this one has to be the major because specifically Allah says 50,000 years. Christians can get away with it because it doesn't specify, how long it takes God for 1 year.
Yes.
So they can squeeze their way out.
But even this example you're giving, I mean, it depends on which verses you read. There are 50,000 years or 1,000 years, as far as I remember.
No, that's the angel. Angels 1 day is equal to 1,000 years of our reckoning. But God's 1 day is 50,000 years.
Yeah, but no, not quite clear. It is really a three or four places mentioned in the Quran. This whole years thing, and it's all mixed up. In the end, you can take what you want. Because
there is a mix-up. There is no mix-up. It's categorically says that
Allah said the same goes with the creation of the earth. On one place you read 6 days, on other places you read the earth took 2 days, then the mountains took 2 days, and the heavens took 2 days, and something. What was the last thing?
Well, it adds up to 8 days. If it adds up to 8 days.
So you have mixed up. Believe me, if you want.
Okay. Doesn't matter if they deviate from 6 days. And they claim it's 8 days, and they are making the contradiction.
Sure, that's what I mean. So you can take what you want. In the end, you can say what you want. That's the problem.
Okay. Pretend you're a Muslim, and I tell you this verse, 50,000 years, and I tell you, do you believe Earth was created in 350,000 years? What would you say?
You can't. It depends on what you are reading, on what part you are looking at. But this doesn't help with the discussion at the moment.
But I've never heard a Muslim saying that in any case. So I'd be interested to know what the Muslim response is to your question, because obviously I'm not a Muslim, so I don't know how to respond to that. But every Muslim I speak to in Speaker's Corner is quite happy to say the universe and the earth is billions of years old. They don't have a problem with that.
Well, no, it can be. That's not what the Quran says.
They must have some response, but I don't know what it is. Because I've not heard of that one.
Point the passage that says that 1 day of Allah is 50,000 years of our reckoning. It's in the Quran. And if it takes 6 days, that's 350 years. So, you cannot say that it took billions of years. You can't say that.
Well, I can certainly ask the question. I'll do it.
350,000.
I'll do it in Tzortzis manner. I'll say to them, hey, what about? I've heard something about 50,000 years and so on. How did and ask them the question, and then I can bring you guys the response so you can hear it.
Exactly. I think that's the most realistic way. And then you could also ask, how is that supposed to work? What is the methodology employed if this God is not there and is outside of the universe, and then he just chucks around some matter, waits gravity to do its thing, and then he has the planet. Is that exactly how you envisage this?
They've got an easy escape for that. He's just all powerful. He can do anything you can logically think about.
Yeah, then it's part of the
that's-
same fairy tale, and then they can do anything. Yeah, this is true.
Yeah, so when you get into specifics like that, we're not really going to get anywhere. They just go, he's all powerful. He can do anything that's logically possible. Some of them still fall for
logically
the...
possible. So he's subjected to the logics of humans.
I would say even illogical. I mean, he's God. Who are we to question the God?
Yeah, but he wouldn't be able to do in his nature, and this is even the Christian apologetics. So Craig and his bunch, who are supposedly at the forefront of apologetics, etc., they've stepped back from, very smart people don't use omnipotence or any of the omnipresence. They talk about maximally powerful.
Yeah, they can't get away with it anymore.
Because it's incoherent, and if you look at it, if you explore it deeply, it just doesn't make sense. So yeah, it's anything that's logically possible is the latest version of...
Logically by whom?
By us, because they claim that in God's nature he's unable to do something that's logically impossible. That's incoherence. You can't include that as part of his attributes. Which, I mean, if you think about it, if we stepped into their worldview, that makes sense.
Okay, but it's humans that determine that you cannot have a married bachelor. So the God is subjected to human logics, and he cannot step outside of human logics.
Yeah, but that's an example that you've put a label on.
Exactly. So he's dependent on human labels. Exactly.
And for him to be intelligible to us, if there is such a thing, then he would need to go by those. They won't claim those are our rules. They will claim that it's his rules. They're infused into the universe, and that's in fact what Matt Slick and the Christians do. They go, hey, the laws of logic are infused into the universe, and we can't make sense of it without a God. Now that the Muslims haven't really caught on to that part, they probably will at some stage, but they will say that he's infused logic and evidence and rationality, etc., into the universe, and so that's how we can make sense of it. And he obviously follows those quote laws that he's put into the universe.
Okay. I still don't see how they can get away with this claim that the universe was created by an entity that is not part of the universe. I don't know how they can do that. Unless they really go into that fairy tale and they say, well, the big bad wolf is blowing and it's possible if you just believe it.
Now, there's two creation, what would I call them? Craig is, and I was trying to look them up now and I couldn't find it. There's two parts to creation. One is the creator, the person doing the creating. The other is the material. And the analogy like Craig and other people use, which the Muslims don't know about, is like if you have the sculptor, Michelangelo creates a sculpture. Michelangelo, it's the efficient and the material cause. So God is the efficient cause, and then the material is the material cause, like with a sculptor. So, again, smart people split up the creation, what's the word?
The act on the concept.
The creation act into two parts.
Yeah.
But even that doesn't help, as far as I can see, in answering this. But this is specifically Muslim. I don't know if I think the Christians also think he created it from nothing, but I don't know that they say specifically like the Muslims do, that God and his creation are separate, as in utterly separate. Because that's
I've never heard that either, and I don't even quite understand what it is in aid of. Why would they need that? Because
it's somewhere in the Quran. I mean, you know better than me, and maybe it doesn't use those exact words, but I was there today and I asked this question. And of course, they are very clear that there is something that apparently says that God and his creation are separate. And so...
Oh, it does. He is not a part of his creation. Absolutely.
That's the part, yeah. And so... But if that were to be reinterpreted that yes, he and his creation are of the same stuff, for want of a better word, then it becomes more of a panentheist type view. In which case, as I say, then the whole judgment and punishment becomes even more problematic for them. Because now he's. I always use the analogy. Imagine that you were a carpenter and you fashioned the chessboard and the chess pieces, and you set the game in motion. You would be doing all of those. Would you then go and A, punish them, or then B, you set the rules in place? Would you allow the game to play, or would you get involved? And what would happen if a piece, went in a different direction than you said? And so that's the kind of analogy. It's more for the morality side of things, but it could be used here as well.
I like that analogy. Yeah. Okay. Well, no set answer.
No, but if somebody can come up with something, they back away typically. I haven't even touched on the creation from nothing part, because if you assume, again, this is I'm just going from a philosophical point of view because they are bringing up this claim. if you assume that God is all powerful, that means that he is everywhere, can do anything and everything. If there's, at some point, there was some nothingness had to come into existence, because they're saying he created the universe from nothing. How did he do this? If we logically step that through, and he was all there was prior to the universe, then that, to me, the next step means that at some point, God had to make way for a little bit of nothingness in which he could then plop the universe into. And again, that just seems...
But hang on, then philosophically and logically, you can't have a nothing. Because as soon as you have a nothing, it's already something.
Well, it is in the sense that we describe it, but the nothingness could still be the way, I'm just thinking it could be, I'm not saying it is, but it could be the way theists imagine, which is
but demonstrate a nothing. Show me a nothing.
Well, creation from ex nihilo, no, obviously we can't do that.
Exactly.
That's the equivocation that they make. But that's why I'm saying I haven't even addressed that part of it. I'm only addressing the last part, which is how can the creation and the creator be separate in the way that you've just read the verse there. That to me is a huge challenge. And I've given you my premises and conclusion, which eliminates that if I was in their worldview and seems to make sense of it. But then it points towards more of a panentheist type view.
Did you come across the rationality again?
Not today. I was actually kind of waiting for that, but none of those guys were there today that I saw. I didn't run into them. Let's put it that way. The other one that I did do, which is also on the universe, but not this. Somehow we got talking, and the guy sort of brought up the whole, the heavens and the earth were split asunder, and try to make that fit into the cosmological, inflationary theory. I use the inflationary theory as the way I talk, and of course they just use the term Big Bang, which is fine. It's a similar. We understand it similarly. And I said to him,
they don't understand Big Bang.
No, they don't understand Big Bang per se, but they just use that terminology, and they know that something kind of exploded, which obviously isn't true. You and I know that, and most people do. But that's just, the level that they're talking at, which is fine. I kind of understand what they're talking about to some degree. But that's what they're trying to fit in. We had this long discussion. And the only way that they can make this fit from what I can see is to use a reductionist argument and say, hey, well, what's the earth made of? Well, it's made of atoms. Well, what's the heavens made of? Oh, well, it's made of atoms. Well, you see, if you put all the atoms together and then you explode it from a single point, there we go. And that shows that the heavens and the earth can easily be split asunder, and it fits perfectly with science. And I'm sitting there and going, fine, all right, if you want to use the reductionist argument, by your logic, or lack thereof, or whatever term you want to use, then you have to say that Adam was created at the beginning of the universe. And
exactly.
And then he went, well, kind of, yes. And I said, well, actually, then you have to change your verse. Oh, no. As soon as you heard that you had to change your verse, now we have to find a way out of this. And of course, he accused me of playing with words, etc., etc. And I said, I'm a skeptic here. Tell me how this verse marries with what science says about the inflationary model of the universe.
Exactly.
No.
You explained it to me.
Exactly. He kept repeating the same thing, which was basically a reductionist argument. That's the only way they can make it fit. He's going, oh, no, but the heavens and the earth, they were split asunder. I'm going, no, the earth came, about 10 billion years after the beginning of the universe. And what about all the stars? What about the galaxies? What about everything else that was out there? Because, of course, they couldn't see galaxies at that stage. And he's going, no. You know what? It's got to be for the people of the time to understand. And I'm going, but you said this book is timeless. So if it would have been difficult for them to understand then, at least we would have understood it now. We could have gone, oh, this is quite remarkable that this book knew specifically what it said. But all it talks about is what they knew at the time, or even earlier than what they knew. And it doesn't bring into account anything that we know today. But this, I'll put it up. You'll see it. And then eventually I just said to him, I don't think we're getting anywhere here. And that was after 50 minutes of this. But he started with another this.
Why didn't God create the people with the knowledge we have today?
Well, because everything's a test, isn't it, I suppose?
Exactly. I mean, the whole thing just falls apart as soon as you look into it. And I would always say, okay, show me, just tell me the methodology, tell me the process, what actually happened, when, at what stage, and how to whom. Go and describe it for me.
No, you've got no chance. You've got no chance of that.
It doesn't work. So then the next question is, why does the Quran not get updated? Why is there not a new Quran every single year as our knowledge progresses? Now, that would be a clever way.
Well, no, their answer is it's a timeless book, and if you just follow it closely, i.e. if you reinterpret everything that you can possibly reinterpret because it's so vague anyway, then you can come up with any answer you want. Well, yeah, sure. I mean, I can do that with Shakespeare's work. I mean, that doesn't that's not an answer to anything.
So, do you condemn Muslims who are stoning women to death today?
Yeah, I haven't asked them that one.
It's your turn. Okay, I mean, this is a lot of fun. And I think the best is really to go and experience this. Go to Hyde Park the way that Ike is doing this, and then go and talk to them and see really what kind of level of interaction are you getting. For me, I just get frustrated here because it is so stupid, it is so dumb, it is so amazingly inane. And then they still think they're making points and inroads, and they actually and then the worst is the reactions that you get from Muslims who watch this. Mashallah, this is so fantastic. This is so brilliant. And this is the worst, that there are people out there who actually do not have the brain capacity to see through it and who actually say, wow, this is impressive. That, I think, is the worst part about Islam.
I have to agree with you there. It does give me, I don't have a lot of hope for part of mankind when I listen to some of the comments there. It fills me with a bit of dread when I look at this and how they seem to be able to follow Shabir and explain how all of this is wonderful. And a lot of them, unfortunately, it's a case of, it's like a boxing match. Oh, this one slayed this one, or this one beat this one, or this one, it's about a boxing ring.
Martial language, yeah.
That's not my sort of approach. But my advice for anybody coming is to, make sure that you have some topics that you want to talk about and sort of stick to that, and be clear that, they're going to ask you what your worldview is. So as long as you can kind of articulate your worldview. I didn't get to speak to Sarah today, unfortunately. I did want to, because of course, Sarah being the black guy with the bald head that's kind of speaks to his ancestors. But
he's now the #1 enemy there.
Oh, is he? Okay. Yeah. I mean, for me, when I listen to him, he's quite on point on certain things, and then he can't defend his own worldview and just says he's crazy.
But this is the point. This is what I like. He says we are equally crazy.
Well,
he says the only difference is my crazy does not hurt anyone, and there he's absolutely spot on.
I mean, if he's speaking between him and the Muslim, fair enough, but I wouldn't extend that to other worldviews. I mean, I don't think you and I and most people on this hangout think that we're crazy, so he's entitled to that. But my question to him would be, Sarah, well, do you care with what's true? And if you do care what's true, you can believe things for good reasons or bad reasons. Let's explore whether your reasons are good or bad, because maybe if you are somebody that wants to believe in truth and you seem to be laser focused when you're attacking the Muslims, maybe it's also a case of looking at your worldview and going, okay, does this actually make sense? Or could it be your imagination? Could you be smoking pot or doing something else that's giving you the same effect? So I do think that people need to, have some defense of their own worldview, whatever that is, because you will be asked. And I mean, you can avoid talking about it, but that probably won't endear you, or you won't get as good interactions if you're not prepared to answer some of their questions, because some of them have been there for ages and they don't come there to just defend their own worldview. They want to prod other people as well. That's part of what seems to make it fun for them, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, I looked at why it is that they treat you in a different way than they treat others, because they don't shout so much and they don't insult you as much, because they still see your hesitance as a sign of weakness, that you still are seeking and that there is still some hope for you. That they still, I mean, why do you get offered all these Qur'ans? It doesn't matter whether it's Abbas or Shabir or whatever. You get them because they still think that they are doing something. They're laying burying the seed deeper down you that you will then convert, because you are not a typical apologist or counter apologist that they are used to, because you don't tell them, listen, you're a fuckhead because you do this because Muhammad married the 6-year-old. You don't do that. You stick to your thing and say, listen, I don't think it goes there, but let's talk about this a bit. And you are doing exactly what is sort of goading them on so that they still think that they have an inroad somewhere.
Yes, I guess, as I say, I'm reasonably polite, and I want to give them time. Maybe, as I say, when I get to your stage of being there 5 years and I've heard it all, and, it may be that I'll interject a lot quicker to avoid it. I mean, even today, I let it run on and he tried to give me an analogy of the mobile phone. How many times have I heard the mobile phone and trying to explain that to the universe? I'm like, Oh my word! You know, and it's battling, and especially with new people, I give them a lot more leeway than I would with the regulars. The regulars, I just jump in there with those sort of things. Come on, the mobile phone. You know, we've covered that. Just don't bring that up. But for people that I haven't, I imagine myself, what would it be like if it was the first time for me and somebody wouldn't let me finish a sentence? So people I've not spoken to before, I'll let them do it. I'll kind of say, you know, the mobile phone is not a good analogy, but carry on. And then I'll explain to you why not. So I'll let them get it out. Otherwise, you know, these are people that have never been there before or I haven't spoken to. So I don't want to just jump down, you know, quote, new people's throats. I don't know what level they're at, where they're coming from, etc. So I'll give them a bit of leeway to talk. But even with the regulars, I'll still be relatively polite. Let them get the sense of it, because I don't like the talking over each other. So, you know, if I don't like it, then obviously, you know, it behooves me not to try and practice it on them unless they're talking non-stop or absolute nonsense, and they're saying so many nonsense things in once that I have to jump in. Otherwise, I'm not going to remember all the nonsense to address when they eventually get to stop.
Exactly. The Muslim destroyed the arrogant atheist.
Oh, have you got that one? Yes, that's the one I said.
No, this is what what in the chat somebody is saying. This is the typical example.
Yes. I noticed that a lot of the Muslim recordings have their own. They put their own judgment into the title. I just put there Muslim versus atheist, and here's the title. So make up your own mind.
Yeah, but the thing is that even then, even the video where Sarah exposes Shabir, there are still people who actually claim that Shabir totally destroyed Sarah.
Yes, which, as I say, doesn't give me a lot of hope for certain, you know, parts of mankind.
Oh goodness! But
I'll put in by a link. By the way, because we're on apologetics anyway, I've put a link into our chat here, which I can put a link, I guess, into the other chat if I can find it.
So, did you see the comment by Al-Asa where the Quran, where he's explaining with the 1,000 years and the 50,000 years in this?
Let me see.
Should I put this into
there we go. Got
description?
Got it. Yeah, I've got that. I'll have a look at that.
That's Quran 2247. 2247, that's where Allah says.
Brilliant. I've copied and pasted that, so I'll have a look at that again, and I'll actually take that to them, and I'll get you a response. No problem. Easy enough, and I'll speak to you. Again, I prefer to speak to people that, I don't want to go speak to, you know, people that don't know much. As soon as I can hear they don't know much, I'll probably let them talk for a while and move on. But I want to speak to the smarter people, because that's the way I'll get, quote, the best answers, because I don't want to, you know, attack, you know, weak answers. That's not much use, you know, so I want to hear what the best guy said. Just by the way, as I say, I put a link in there. That link there is to a playlist that refutes presuppositionalism, particularly the site in Bruggencate. The guy does a really good job of it. I think he's from the Netherlands. If you're interested in understanding a little bit about that, and you want to do a little bit on the, you know, philosophical side, that link I've sent you is really good.
But is that like from Matt Dillahunty?
No. This is a seems to be a philosopher somewhere in the Netherlands, and he uses like stick men, and he plays the part of the other apologists. Yeah. That's really good. But he goes in, and he's got other bits there where he talks about the intelligibility of God's attributes and so forth. So, you know, at a higher level, that's a pretty good one. He goes through it quite slowly. Really, really good one, that. Because a lot of them do, you know, deal with it. And there's a really good hangout, which I'm going to send. Did you watch the video that came out with Andy? There's a recent one that's just come out from one of the guys. I don't know who it was. With Andy was speaking to Hamza Tzortzis. Did you see that one? About 13 minutes.
On what?
On rationality.
Yeah. Then I did.
You've seen that one, yeah. So that guy Andy had a 50-minute conversation, which I recorded today with Muhammad.
Where Imran is standing next to him in the background.
Yes. That's the one. Yeah. So Andy's got some philosophical training. He's not a philosopher, but he's very interested in philosophical things, and so
this is the one where Hamza said, "Well, don't take me too seriously, but I just did a postgraduate course, so this is why you get all the big words from me." You know.
Oh, the emergent materialism. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yes. You know, he really pisses me off.
I know you don't like him. I think he's got a lot of knowledge. But I think it's like, you know, a brain has been put into if he could get out of, you know, Islam and put his brain to real work, for want of a better word, you know, he's not a stupid guy, but he's trying to defend something that's very difficult to defend, and so he's trying all kinds of inroads to try and defend that. But if you put him, you know, somewhere else where he didn't have that baggage, you know, he seems to have learnt a fair amount. But I know you don't like him on a personal level.
No, because he's a bullshitter. I don't like bullshitters. I don't like people who deceive, who lie. I mean, I've caught him lying so many times. I've made an entire video called Liar, Liar, because he lies so much. And this is the problem. That's why I don't like him. It's exactly as you say, if he were to put his mind to it, he could learn a lot of things. But I think with him, it's a lot of learning by heart, but not understanding. Because when I did a video where I compared the arguments from Craig and Tzortzis, and he even copies the hand movements. And he makes a mistake because he says 10 to the power of 100 is 23 zeros.
Yes, which is Craig's position, isn't it? Yes,
no,
so
it's totally wrong. He doesn't understand the maths behind it because he was talking about large numbers.
Oh, right.
He completely makes a total balls up.
Oh, you mean he didn't even copy correctly?
Exactly.
Right, okay.
So if he would understand it, he wouldn't have made that mistake. So.
Yeah. I mean, the Christians are way ahead. That they with their apologetics and their philosophy and their evidential arguments, quote unquote, in inverted commas. They're a long way ahead of the Muslims. So the Muslims are borrowing the bits they like, and then obviously critiquing. Every single time I go to the park, I just walk away when I see a Muslim critiquing a Christian on the Trinity. I'm like, how many times? And in the beginning, I was like, okay, what is this? And I actually asked them. I asked a couple of the smart Muslims. I said, okay, let me just check in here. Are you critiquing the Trinity because of what the Bible says, or are you critiquing because you think it's impossible? Again, just from my view, as I don't care either way. I'm an independent observer, but to me, it seems plausible that it could be all of those things. The Trinity does make sense if I were to divorce it from the Bible. And so when I've asked that question, they've kind of considered that, yes, you can kind of make sense that, God could be the soul part of Jesus and the body can die and the soul can go off and all that sort of stuff. But the moment you bring it into the Bible, now the Bible doesn't
then it
say
can't
all
be
of
a
this.
physical manifestation anymore. Yeah.
So they attack it on the Bible, I think, mostly, not so much that it's
I agree.
impossible for an all-powerful creator to infuse a part of himself into a human and call that my son.
How do you handle this, by the way? If you are in Speaker's Corner, don't you have Jay Smith everywhere?
He wasn't there today, but he normally comes and he's shouting from like 3 o'clock until 4:30 or something like that. Obviously, he's critiquing the Quran, so you've got to kind of stand some distance away if you want to record and not get your ears blown out. But he had his two ladies there today, and they were standing on the thing there. And of course, they draw a large crowd because everybody knows they're Jay's students or whatever you want to call them. And so they were doing something. But every week it's a different, bit like what you're doing. So I don't know if you guys ever have communicated, but each week he comes with some other critique of the Quran or Islam or whatever the case is.
Why is that? Does he have equipment with speakers or what?
No, he's just got a loud voice. There's no speakers are allowed there. So if you bring a speaker, somebody will come at some point and ask you to remove it or remove you or both. So you can't use amplified equipment there. You just got to stand and shout. But he's got quite used to doing this.
Okay.
Well, the Muslim view of Trinity is very different than the Christian. The Christian is Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. But in Muslim, they believe that it's Jesus, Mary, God. Because in Quran it says, at the judgment day, Christian will say that Jesus told us to worship. And then God will ask Jesus, hey, Jesus, did you tell him to worship Mary and you? And Jesus will say, oh, no, I didn't tell him that. If I did, you would know about it.
Yeah.
So there are two versions of Trinity. Same thing with the Jews. Quran says that the Jews say Ezra is son of God. And Christian says Jesus is son of God. There has never been in the history that the Jews has ever said that Ezra was a god. So that's
right.
That's another son of God.
Yeah.
The big problem I see is that it's not somebody like one of you guys there that knows the Quran inside out. And the Muslims know just enough about the Bible to sound incredibly intelligent and well read. Now, I'm sure they haven't read the entire Bible, or if they have, they've only picked out like 10 verses that they want to attack the Christians with. But when you hear them, when you see the arguments, they'll go, oh, Matthew chapter 5, verse 10 says X, Y, and Z. And most Christians are completely unprepared for that. It's only the occasional ones, and that can bring out the Bible. But on video, the Muslims look incredibly intelligent because they are quoting this verse, and it's maybe only 10 verses that they know. but they're quoting them, and then they're challenging the Christians. And of course, the Christians going, I don't know, let's go look at the verse. And so they look like they don't know what they're doing, which isn't necessarily the case. And so it's like a false perception, because, you know, if you guys were there, you could go boom, or I could go there with a couple of verses and say something, then you sound intelligent because now you're quoting the verses off by heart, and they've got to go and look for it. There's not enough of that going on, I think.
It's exactly what Shabir is doing, because as soon as he realizes you know something about it, whoops, he's on the next topic.
Yeah.
There's a question from the chat. What is the name of the video where Hamza Tzortzis talks to Andy?
I've got that here. Let me post it in the chat. I'll share it, both in the... I don't know if I can share in the main chat. Let me just see.
No, just put it here. I'll put it in the
okay,
description
cool.
box.
Yeah, there you go. It's only 13 minutes. But Andy brought up a really good point there, because Hamza's basic point of view, I think I've mentioned to you, is, oh, well, how do atoms have consciousness, or the potential for consciousness / rationality? So he's trying to use a reductionist argument, going, hey, there's this little atom that goes around, you know, nucleus. Does that have the potential for rationality or consciousness?
And of course, the potential where I would knock him out.
Exactly, I agree, and that's what Andy said. And Andy basically says, "How?" And he didn't even read. He was hearing it on the side, because this guy, Tzortzis, was speaking to the black atheists. This was way above their level, and this is not a dig at them in any sense. You know, they know the basic arguments, but when you come with something like that, that's quite unusual, and it's a presuppositionalist approach. Then most people are not prepared for that. So they sort of bumbled around, and then Andy, who knew a little bit, went, they're not giving a good answer. And so then he spoke to Hamza about this, and that was the video that you see there of about 13 minutes. But he brought up a good example, which is, hey, you've got oxygen, you've got the oxygen atom, molecule, whatever you want to call it, and you've got the hydrogen. But now you combine those two, you now have a new property called wetness. So how can you say with any certainty that when you combine naturalistic atoms together, they don't have the potential for consciousness, rationality, etc.? And I didn't see Hamza give any sort of response to that.
Yeah, and exactly, Detective Inspector Monkfish is making exactly that point, because he's saying most philosophers are physicalists, okay, materialists. Most philosophers and scientists believe the physical brain causes the mind, and whatever extent it exists. So Hamza's argument is an argument from ignorance, and there's it right from the beginning.
Yeah, I did a little bit more research into that, and I'll hear something. This is at a much higher level. I don't know if Hamza knows this. I'm not going to say he doesn't. I'm not going to talk behind his back per se. He may know some of this stuff, he may not. But Alvin Plantinga's evolutionary argument against naturalism is kind of, you know, one of those.
That is where he gets it from, exactly.
I'm assuming he does.
Yeah.
And Stephen Law has given a reasonably good refutation
of exactly that.
Okay,
with Professor Arif Ahmed, we went exactly there. We looked exactly what Plantinga is saying, because he is a professor of philosophy, and we had him here on the Jinn&Tonic show, and we discussed exactly this, what Plantinga does and what Stephen Law did.
Yeah. So people can obviously watch that then.
So you can always go back to the oh, but hang on, I think that was the last episode before we were closed down. So I don't even know if that is in the archive.
If anybody's interested in the presuppositional arguments, there's a really good, I will look it up for you while we speak here, while you guys finish off. I'll look it up. It's about a 2.5 hour hangout with these two Christian presuppositionalists who seem to know their stuff. They were at a much higher level. And you had about 4 or 5 atheists who, again, were seemingly philosophers or had philosophical training. They went at this for about 2.5 hours. And I'm not even a student of it, but it was fascinating to listen to this long thing where these atheists were really on point and demonstrating. It was, when I went to left this particular hangout, I went, okay, the presuppositionalist argument is dead. It's a sunk ship. Anybody comes with that now hasn't got an argument to stand on from a philosophical point of view, from an argumentative point of view. They could not mount a proper argument when the atheists really pressed them where it counts. So if anybody's interested, it's, in that side of it, it's a fascinating, although very long hangout.
Yeah. Okay. All right, guys, we're way over time already. Is there anything else that anybody wants to know? Anybody wants to contribute? We have Anasa waiting already with a hadith, so I'm not going to get mine out today. Anything else that anybody wants to know, talk about? Nothing. All right.
Yeah. Just one thing. next week, if you want, this month of Muharram is a very violent month in Islam. And if you guys want to, about 15 to 20, I looked into detail about the story of Hasten. And if you guys want to hear about it next week for 15 to 20 minutes, it's up to you.
Absolutely, always.
And I have a hadith of the day as well.
Okay, so then what I'm going to put down that next week you're going to be, because I remember you mentioned this in a comment, and I said absolutely welcome anytime. Yes. So then I'll know for next time that Allah will talk about violence. Hassan. Ashura.
I just gave you a link there in our chat for
Oh,
somebody.
you put another one.
Yeah, this is for somebody who actually critiqued Shabir, who was a Muslim, and he got a little bit of stick for doing that. But he gave a good argument as well, which is kind of what we said. So at least there is one other Muslim that's prepared to, say, hey, this is not a great, approach. So I was quite impressed and surprised by that.
Hang on, what am I getting here? YouTube watch, this is like a whole long string. Is that also a...
It's a string because it takes you to the actual comment. It takes you to the comment.
Okay, now I understand.
And the commenter is 2KSF. He should be at the top there, where he sort of starts. This is painful to watch. I'm a Muslim, and neither of these guys knows how to debate. Blah, blah, blah. And he carries on from there.
Yeah, but this is why Shabir is scared. I mean, this is why he will never come here, because he knows that he doesn't have a leg to stand on. This is why for the last 2 years, people have been heckling him. Go to the Jinn&Tonic show. Go to the Jinn. Yeah. I will go. I'm going to destroy them. I'm going to annihilate them. And he never pops up here.
Well, if he does come down to, he will come down to Speaker's Corner again at some point. I'll ask him. I don't think I'm going to have another conversation. I just don't think it's beneficial in the sense that we don't really get anywhere and it gets drawn out. And
You're right.
It's not helpful for me to, do that. So if I see him again, then I'll say to him. I've got his number, by the way. So if you want, I won't publish it online. But if you wanted to text him and go, hey, come onto the show, then obviously you could do that.
If I see him, I will provoke him, and maybe maybe he comes then.
Keep an eye out there. Subscribe to All Truth Revealed, I think is the channel, because they put up a little video saying, hey, he's coming down, so you'll know when he's coming. And then they kind of advertise when he's coming down. He's not the moderator on his channel, by the way. When I spoke to them, he's not the guy that responds on the channel.
No, it's always, there seem to be a group of them, but it's always PBWY, you are hilarious, or that's hilarious, or that's always the same reply.
Whatever it is. Peace be on you or something, whatever it is.
With you, there you go. PBWY, that's hilarious. And then they do whatever.
I did say to him at one point, I said to somebody, it's just like copy and paste. You've obviously got this comment ready to go and you just paste it every single time as your reply. It is amusing.
Okay. All right, then thank you very much, guys. I loved it. It's so nice to have a different take. And thank you guys in the chat. That's also is Hamza back on the scene? Yes. It seems that he has come out of hiding. He went into hiding after Professor Krauss totally destroyed him. And it took him 1 year to come back. Then he got beaten again when he started his LDM stuff. So I beat him down like 10 minutes after the video was out. I was already on the refutation video, and that killed them after a while. I killed them when it came to their the live chat. Then he went away for a year and he did a couple of things. Essence of Thought has hammered him every time he came to a university somewhere. And we've been doing this together with our Dawah, Dawah Refutation channel or something. And now he's decided he's going to go to Speaker's Corner and cause some shit there. But then he's using old stuff. And now Rob is on him and he's going to, like completely annihilate him there.
Oh, well, I'm not going to. No, I wouldn't go that far. What I do think, though, is that the correct person would. I mean, there's definitely questions he could ask that I may not have an answer to with the rationality, etc. But if the right person was there, that argument would be, I think, quite soundly refuted. Particularly the philosophical side, but even the naturalistic part of that presuppositional argument, I think now there's not much weight to that.
Let me give you essence of thought, because he went and hammered him like really hard, and he said, "Listen, guys, okay, let's go for a discussion. Let's have a debate and blah blah blah." And everything was set up, and then they suddenly pulled back and said, "Oh shit, no, actually not."
Really?
The thing is, what they thought, that because he's very soft spoken, or she is very soft spoken. The thing is that they thought, this is easy stuff. Let me put the link of essence of thought here.
Mm-hmm.
And so they said, okay, then let's go and meet and do this. And then when he said, okay, but then we'll do it in public on a publicly available platform, and just do it on Skype or something. And then I'm going to have Stop Spamming as my moderator. That was too much for them. They pulled out.
Oh God, yeah. So is this a lady? Is this a lady that runs this, or?
This is Peter Ethel.
Peter Ethel. Okay, good. I'm just subscribed. Brilliant. I'll go and have a look at that.
And the other one that we have together, which we are not really doing so much on, unfortunately, is the Dawah response team. Let me quickly see if I can get you a link to the Dawah response team.
I was actually going to do a critique on the, as I said to you, if I get the time, I was going to consider doing a critique on the Darren Hamza / Sarah long one there, because I think they both sort of made a number of mistakes there. But I'm not sure that Sarah came out, if I had to grade it, then I'm not sure Sarah came out on top on that one. Particularly when he didn't really defend his position.
Yeah, he gets lazy sometimes. I get this idea. Then he gets a little bit arrogant, and then it doesn't work. When he's not, he needs to be on the ball, to really hit this all the time. Then it's brilliant, like what you did with Shabir. I mean, I loved it. I mean, that was so brilliant.
Yes, yeah. You didn't sort of let him escape with anything there. And he actually asked a couple of the right questions. I think that's the other key thing. In key moments, if you ask the right questions in key moments, that makes a big difference.
Here we go. Copy. This is the Dawah response team.
Sweet.
Which was actually a great idea, but then it was me doing everything on my own, because essence of thought, I only did 2 or 3, and that was it.
Well, I'm happy with, if you want to, let's talk about this, but I'm happy to do something with you where we have a video and you and I critique it. And I love watching this, and I could watch an hour's critique easy. Maybe other people can't, but you and I could critique it live, where we stop and start the video and give our thoughts as we go along. That's another way where you don't have to prep ahead of time. That's the pain in the butt if you've got to prep. I was doing that prep for that other one I gave you. And that prep took me 2 days, because I was doing it sentence by sentence, because it was such a short video, and because there were so many interruptions and stuff. I was literally writing it all out, and I went, do you know what? This is such hard work for like a 7 to 10 minute video.
Yeah, and I was thinking of doing exactly that to this, the video of the week, which I selected today, which is the worst video I have ever seen, with the 2 guys that you had from EF Dawah, because this has all the elements that you need in any kind of apologetics, because it's the cosmology, it's the Qur'an, it's the nonsense with the science, it's the nonsense with the numerology. It has everything that you need, that anybody would ever want to see about apologetics.
Sweet, look forward to it.
No, I thought maybe we could do this together, because I was saying in the beginning of the show, I was saying maybe I should do exactly what you are suggesting now, and that is do a live commentary. Just go listen to the video, stop it, make a comment, carry on, because I did that with a short video, but that, as you say, is a lot of work. And I did this, this was unscripted, just from the top of my head. Even then it was a lot of work, but then I thought, well, if I do it like that, I just listen to this thing and then talk, then maybe it's possible.
Yeah, I think that's a nice way. And, if you want to do it together with myself or somebody else, that gives us a chance to have a conversation. Yes, the video is going to be long, but those people who are interested, like I am, will watch it, download it, whatever. You can do something else, let it run in the background, whatever you want to do. I've watched 2.5-hour debates. Like I say, I'll just do something else. I'm listening to it. So you don't have to be physically watching the screen, and you can download it, make it an MP3, put it on your phone, whatever. So, if people are interested in the subject, and I think there's enough people that will watch a 2-hour thing or listen to it at least, hopefully it's not 2 hours, but there's enough interest. I don't think there has to be a time limit per se.
Well, let's do it, because we have very different approaches, and I think it could be beneficial for people to see, because this video is so bad. It is brilliant to do because it contains all the different elements.
Sounds good. You've got my details. Give us a shout. I can do something this week during the week, actually, so it doesn't have to be late night. So yeah, give us a shout.
Okay, we're half an hour over. I'm sorry, I apologize. But it's such fun. Okay, I think it's fun anyway.
Me too.
Okay, Alasa, come on, let's hear it. Let's have the hadith of the week. Oh, now he's gone for coffee. Because I see the microphone.
Before we go,
no, there you are.
Today, I'm just going to be a very short fatwa of the week as well. Are romantic novels allowed in Islam?
Romantic novels? Like Gone with the Wind or what?
Yeah. Well, the answer is you can't, by a sheikh from Islam today. And his reasoning, these from the world of reality and take you to the fantasy. I can say same thing about the Quran.
You're cutting out. I can hardly hear what you're saying.
Can you hear me now? Hear me? Or I'm still cutting in and out?
It varies.
Maybe my internet bandwidth is bad. Maybe you should do the hadith of the week today. I think my bandwidth is altering.
Okay, now it was perfect.
The hadith of the week. How many? If you're a Muslim couple, how many kids would have to die? Then you will be shielded from the hellfire. It doesn't heaven, but you will be shielded. How many die before you get shielded from hellfire?
Are you saying that there is a hadith that tells you if so and so many kids die, then you are being shielded from hell, and it is then much easier for you to get to heaven?
I suggest a real Muslim would say all Jew kids.
How many Jewish kids? No, your own kids need to die.
Well, it doesn't say that you will go.
I think 3 or so was it.
Well, it doesn't say that you will go to heaven. All it says that you will be shielded from fire. Maybe you still be in hell, but cool. What the
I think it was 3 because the pain is so great. If you lose 3 kids, at least you shouldn't suffer more in the hell.
Well, if your answer is 3, you're correct. If your answer is 2, you're still correct. Here's the hadith. Here's the hadith. It was narrated from Abu Sa'id, may Allah be pleased with him, that the women said to the Prophet, "Give us a day to teach us." So he preached to them and said, "Any woman who loses 3 of her children, they will be shielded. They will be a shield for her against the fire." Another woman said, "And 2?" He said, 2 as well. And this is Sahih al-Bukhari 1262 and Muslim 4786.
So it's 2, 3, or 4?
Well, yeah. Well, we know 2 or 3, but 4, we're not too sure. Doesn't say. It doesn't say.
4?
Or 3. He was preaching to them, if any one of you loses 3, they will shield you from the hellfire. Another woman asked her, "What about if 2 die?" He said 2 as well.
Okay, I thought I heard you say 3 or 4. Wow. Okay, this is yeah. Welcome to Islam. It's ancient superstitions, and people really believe. The question in the chat is: do people like Hamza Tzortzis really believe? No. Hamza Tzortzis really believed at some stage, and at some stage he realized, no, this is not true, because I remember he went to the Magic Sandwich show, and at that stage he still believed. And then Rationalizer came at him and said, "Listen, do you really think," and this is, I think Alassa also had this one, "do you really believe that when you are in heaven and your parents who are not Muslims are sitting in No, they are in hell, you are in heaven, and you can look down on them. And does that make you feel good about worshiping a God that will make your parents, who I assume are good people, because they gave you a good upbringing, they took care of you in all their lives, and you are now sitting on heaven, sipping on wine and eating grapes, and you are feeling good and worshiping your God who is sending your parents to hell. And that was a big point for him. And I think after that, he realized not all is well in Islam. And then after that, he realized when he retracted the brilliant Captain Disguise paper on embryology, when he retracted it because of that, and then he went back and said there are no miracles, no scientific miracles in the Quran, that's when he became a professional Muslim. And he decided, I'm not going to sell washing machines, I'm going to sell Islam and get paid for it. This is my personal opinion, okay? Very personal.
Yeah, I agree.
So if you hear things like what Al-Assad just read, I mean, come on, who can believe that? I mean, you have to be a Somali woman, like totally uneducated, totally into ghosts and superstitious nonsense before you will accept anything like that. I don't see any other way that any normal person will believe this.
Well, there's a Dr. Farooq Salim. He's a Pakistani. He's in the field of education, and he's estimated that number of people in Islamic world who are functionally illiterate is almost 900 million.
Yeah.
That's how much he believes that's how much illiteracy there is. 900 million people functionally illiterate.
Well, I did a video on that, and I found that it's roughly 50% in total. Even if, because I think he's being a bit generous, but if you look at it realistically, if I look at the figures that even Muslim institutions are giving, it's around 50%. I mean, it's coming down fast, sure, but at the moment it's still at 50%, and that should tell you something about the educational level in Islam. I mean, look at my video that I did on knowledge is haram. Come on, I mean, that's the way that it is. You can't take the Quran and then go and investigate nature. You can't.
Well, I think it's going even further up because the birth rate is very high. The highest birth rate is among the people who cannot afford to send their children to school. That's where
but that's also coming down.
Highest birth rate is.
Iran, for example, has a lower birth rate now than France. Sorry, the Islamic Republic of Iran.
Yeah. Well, and in that part of the world, it would. They'll be more literate. But you're looking at the other parts of the world where the poor makes up like 60%, and that's where they are producing kids like
rabbits.
Unbelievable.
Bunnies.
Yeah, like rabbits.
Well, there's a statistic now which says that there are more female graduates in Saudi Arabia than there are in other countries. And that is so ridiculous. I looked at the numbers and I compared this to reality. I said, okay, how many people are there in the UK that go to varsity, that go for any kind of tertiary education, and how many graduates do you have? And then I looked at the same numbers in Saudi Arabia, and suddenly the factor was 5 times bigger compared to the number of people who actually enrolled. So there's a lot of rigging going on there. All right, ladies, gentlemen, and others, let us decide to convene again next week. This was the Jinn&Tonic show. If you want to join, go to godless.ch. If you want to go and contribute here, go to hangout.godless.ch. If you want to see a past show, go to archive.godless.ch. That's it from the Jinn&Tonic show. Atheist Experience next. No, I don't watch it anymore. It's too much of the same. Okay, guys, see you next week. Ciao, Howie.
Take care.
Adios.